We are now live.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for attending today's meeting of the Santa Rosa City School Board. Opening this meeting Wednesday, August 10th, 2022. We'll begin the meeting. Agenda item C1, our territorial land acknowledgement. Presenting for us this evening is Dr. Castro.
Thank you. We acknowledge that Santa Rosa City Schools is on the traditional territory and homelands of the Pomo people, traditional territory and homelands of the Coast Miwok people, and honor with gratitude the land itself and the people who have stewarded it through the generations. This land acknowledgement calls us to commit to continuing to learn how to be better stewards of the land we inhabit. By offering this land acknowledgement, we affirm Indigenous sovereignty and will work to hold Santa Rosa City Schools more accountable to the needs of American Indian and Indigenous peoples.
Thank you, Dr. Castro. And we will continue to honor the past and the present for the future of this land and for our school community with respect and gratitude. Agenda item C2, Pledge of Allegiance. All in attendance, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Slides over here.
Nos ponemos de pie para decir el juramento a la bandera.
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
President Sheffield, can we pause for just a moment with our translation? I'm going to try to straighten it out. just
Absolutely.
very briefly. We should be all set with translation now. Thank you.
All right. Well, I just want to take a moment before we proceed with our meeting to welcome everyone to the start of another school year. Our principals, site administrators, respected staff, teachers, students, families, the marathon begins now. So I hope everyone had a nice summer and that we're going to return to school relaxed, recharged, and ready for a fresh start. My wish is that students start the new year with hopes and dreams, and that despite uncertainty and the craziness that's become our new normal, that we all do our best to make the year a great one. The district has invested in mitigation measures, ventilation upgrades, and other safety precautions, trainings, policies, and procedures designed to make school campuses safe places for learning. We will continue to add social, emotional, and academic supports throughout the year to keep students engaged, but we know that students will return tomorrow with enormous needs. So we need to carefully and responsibly direct resources wisely. I'm pretty confident that we can do this. But we also must find ways to support each other. Teachers supporting teachers, unions and administrators supporting school staff, the board supporting our superintendent while being guided by our mission, values, and our purpose. And most importantly, that the entire school community, all of us, support our students and our families. And lastly, these are crazy times. Parents, families, and students, please use good judgment. The pandemic is still very real. Please heed guidance that is science grounded. That's vaccines and boosters and PPE and social distancing, hand washing, stay home when you're sick. These practices all work. Good judgment and continuing with what works have gotten us as far as we've gotten today. We need to power forward for the sake of our kids. So goo up. We do have a race ahead of us, so continue to stay safe, stay healthy, and be well. Moving on to agenda item C3, reports of actions taken in closed session. We have no actions to report. C4, items considered in closed session, for actions in open session, none to report. C5, statements of abstention. Are there statements of abstention tonight? Moving on, agenda item C6, adjustments to the agenda. I'm going to pause here for a minute, something that I did want to address. But at this time, are there adjustments from board members or from the superintendent? Okay, so it's been brought to my attention that the way we've been addressing this particular agenda item, the adjustments to the agenda section, specifically, when we open it up to the public for addressing consent items, the F items, it's maybe not fair, and I'll explain. A while back, the board fell into the practice of placing consent items at the end of the agenda, but we placed the request for adjustments at the beginning of the meetings. This means that members of the public wishing to have a consent item pulled for discussion would first need to be present at the beginning of the meeting and then wait until the end of the meeting before it gets addressed. They could be present and then they could leave and then they could come back. So maybe what I'm proposing is that we continue to call on the public to identify consent items wishing to be addressed at the C portion, the beginning of the meeting, so that our staff or the board can prepare for discussion. And then when we get to the item in the F section at the end of the meeting, we ask, again, the public to participate. So I wanted to get your thoughts. And if we do choose to adjust the practice, this, I believe it falls into the Brown Act category of adopted practices. So we don't need to formalize it with a vote. We can just agree that we want to maybe move forward doing this. So I wanted to get your guys' thoughts on this. And if you have any input or if you have something to say, yeah, I see.
So,
Trustee Flores.
so what you're saying is, I want to make sure I understand this, is that we open up to the public, everyone, not just the people that pulled the item, will be able to speak to that item. Is that?
When we get to the F item, we are then asked if people would like to have a consent item pulled.
Oh, another pulled item.
Another
Got it.
poll. So that way you're not bouncing back and forth. One thing that's great about the convenience of doing virtual meetings is, you could pick your kids up from school. You can get them off to track practice. You can follow along. But if you want to have an item that you want to address, a consent item,
Okay.
you really have to follow it extra closely, right? You still have to be present to address a consent item. You can't just have it pulled. But I'm just thinking of a way we can do this. Yes, Trustee Fong.
I would agree that we wait till the F item comes up and ask who would like to speak to something. We'll see how many people or who wants to speak to
Yeah.
something. We'll have to quickly do that. And then don't restrict, I don't know who you want to restrict it to, but leave it open, just like we leave it open for public comment for any
For
item.
public comment.
And I think that is more sane for the public.
Okay. Yes, Trustee McCormick.
I actually disagree. I think especially while we're still in a hybrid situation, I feel like we still have the flexibility for people to comment later in the meeting because
When
they
we
can
get to
either be
the-
here and in person or virtually. So I think it's, we already have issues with the length of our meetings
Mhm.
and I think that could lengthen the meetings
Yeah.
even more. And I think it's important for us to make the adjustments early on. So we know when we're extending meetings, making decisions, whatever going forward, that we aren't going to reopen something that we didn't think was going to be reopened later in the,
Now, this would only be for the consent item.
right.
So
It's,
it's,
but our plan is still to
The
have
plan
them
is-
at the end.
yeah. So I think that's the reason why we adjusted it in the first place was because because of the time that it took. We were trying to save time in our meetings, but we kind of moved one and we didn't move the other. And so, and because of that, we kind of created a problem. So that if you're not here at the C part of the agenda to pull a consent item, only a consent item, you missed your chance. When we get to that item to actually address it, we haven't been giving that opportunity for anybody to pull the consent item.
That's what we used to do.
I'm trying to remember when we
We did
changed.
con-
It's
I mean, we did do consent in the beginning during my term, so it's been within 4 years.
been within 4 years.
Yeah. So are we in violation?
We're not in any violation. This is just an adopted practice. So we can choose to do things. My understanding is we can choose to do things. And maybe I present this and it's a thought, something for us to chew on. I don't want to take up any more time if we're not quite there yet. Trustee Fong.
Just in response to what Director McCormick was saying, you know, we should value, and if we value public input on consent items, then the best thing to do would be to just call for that when we get to consent, leave enough time for discussion. And, you know, we're down to the wire many, many times, so
Oh.
let's just not try to get our consent items done in 3 minutes,
Yeah.
but allow, and then we might have a sense of what might be important to people.
Yeah.
Make sure we give enough time.
Okay, well, this, you know what, I didn't intend for us to take this long, so we can chew on this for a bit. I did want to bring it up as a proposed adjustment. We're not there, so we will continue to do things tonight, and maybe we can discuss a little bit further. If we're okay
Yeah,
with it.
I was just gonna say, I think what you suggested is kind of what we really need to do, just offer the public an opportunity to speak at
Yeah.
the beginning of F.
Yeah.
See if there's anybody that has any comments. In the past, we get the e-cards and we know ahead of time, that's when we pull items. And
Yeah.
if members of the board want to pull something, but we can allow people to comment and we still don't have to pull it at that point. We
Mhm.
just hear their comment, move forward. So I think
Yeah.
that's a good practice and I think it's in your purview, President
I
Sheffield.
mean, if we have somebody racing to the door, they've got a blue card at 9:30 at night, and they missed their window on the consent item that they really want us to address. I just want to leave some consideration for that. It really does fall at the discussion of the board, actually the discretion of the chair. But I just wanted to bring it up and take a pulse. I think we're just going to move forward now. Public, we're going to open up to the public on pulling consent items tonight. But we're going to just call for adjustments to the agenda right now. So no adjustments right now from the board. And we'll continue to open up for public comment for consent items. Ready?
If there are members that are attending the meeting on Zoom and would like to speak on one of our consent items, that's the items towards the end of the agenda, would you please raise your hand at this time, and we will go back to that item once we get to it. Please raise your virtual hand. The first person is Arnelli and Alonso. Arnelli, can you please tell us which item you would like to speak on during the consent portion of the agenda?
Oh, sorry, I meant to raise my hand for C7.
Okay, we'll get to public comment on non-agenda items in just a moment. Thank you.
Okay, any other hands?
I do not believe there are any other hands raised at this
All right.
time.
Thank you. We will move on to agenda item C7. Now we will open it up for public comment on non-agenda items. So I do have some blue cards. I'm going to call off names. We have Shelby Pryor, we have Maria Posey, and we have Jeannie, I cannot read this last name, Besancini. All right, we'll start with Shelby Pryor. And we're going to open up for 2 minutes tonight.
Thank you, board. Can you hear me? All right.
Yes.
I appreciate the fact that you guys come here endlessly to go ahead and do the work that you do. I feel like, again, we go ahead and run around in circles trying to get you to work and focus in on educational issues for our youth because they are our future. It's interesting that we constantly are having to have these fights, arguments, conversations that are tough about vaccines and all the other things that are being made to take place when many members of the board are not only invested in these things, but they're also going ahead and working for the programs that are trying to institute them. I don't want to name names because at this point, you know what mud has been slung. But we want to continue to go ahead and press our efforts for you to understand that in order for us to understand what autonomy is, it means that people have the right to do with their body as they choose, not as you so see fit. Most of you individuals talk behind our backs through FOIA requests, and we can go ahead and show you those things in black and white. You create hostile work environments, and you continually go ahead and use your power for not the good and righteous causes that you claim to go ahead and have. Through all these continual efforts of ours, we have to continue to express our frustrations through these endless and boundless things that we have to jump over to get to you to help you understand that it's your job to educate. It's not that we don't trust vaccines that have been studied for years. It's that we do not trust things that you are invested in and continue to push on us. Most of these technologies were developed to minimize the outcomes of animals in our society. If you read 900 pages worth of information, it might suit you to understand that that's your job as an educator, to read, not only read it, comprehend it. That's what our kids need to understand too. Reading is power.
Thank you. All right. We have a blue card from Maria Posey.
I didn't prepare anything because I wasn't planning on actually coming again to this one until I was listening to the Board of Supervisors talking about the vaccines again. And I just heard you, and I can't read the name from up here, talking about the importance of the vaccine and COVID. What medical degree do you have to be telling parents that they should be getting this vaccine? We have yet to, can you as a board, please give us the information to the parents where we can get a fully FDA approved vaccine, not an EUA one. We want to know what ones, we want the liability. We want to know that our kids are protected in taking this. We want to know that it's been approved. I'm going to assume that you will not be able to give that. So in the meantime, it's emergency use authorization. You're not in a position to be telling anybody's child that they should be getting it. The mask. What's the mask do? You want to say we're where we are now because of a mask and a vaccine? Where are we? Same place we've been for 2 years. This is ridiculous. Leave kids alone. They're talking about, should we mask the kids when they first come back to school? No, it's not your place. How many of these kids can read, write? How many of these kids can write in cursive? I'm gonna bet you there's teachers, the younger teachers that can't even write in cursive. How many kids can read a regular wall clock? And you're gonna worry about a kid putting a mask on? You're gonna worry about a kid that needs a vaccine who's gonna play sports? How many kids, and it's in the CDC, myocarditis, and are you okay with that? So the kids that do have to get it for sports, and they have a problem, they say, oh, it gets better quickly. But if you have the myocarditis, you have to go talk to your heart doctor to get approved. My son had a heart condition.
Thank you, Maria. Thank you. Your time is up.
Do your job.
Thank you. Next speaker, we have Jean Besancini. Forgive me if I did not get that correct.
Yes, greetings again. Hi, my name is Jean-Marie Besancini.
Besancini. Thank you.
I'm here to express my moral support for the work of Ms. Dina Flores, Executive Assistant, elucidating questionable county practices and finances with investigations and heretofore 1,000+ unanswered questions. Adina has a great heart for humanity, especially the children, our precious youth. Be like Adina. Public servants are under oath to uphold the Constitution of California and the United States. Y'all ought to refuse to participate in fraud and tyranny. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Alma Perez, followed by Dan.
Hello, thank you for having me here tonight. I am a local Vallejo resident and I've worked within healthcare. So I know what it means to work in a position where we have direct contact with, our population and providing them services to uplift them and better their health. During the COVID pandemic, I was working at the clinic, and the moment that I felt that my ethics as a healthcare provider were being made where I was being put in a position to against my integrity, which is to give everybody a right to refuse, a right to be able to speak for themselves as to what medical procedures they should get. Sorry, it was just really hard in that time. I saw women, so many patients waiting to get the vaccine with their hands gripping onto rosaries. They were terrified. And as in our position, we were just encouraged to, well, if the patient is afraid because of their religion, let them know that's not based on science. If they're afraid because of this, let them know that. And that is coercion. And that is not body autonomy. And with me being within that position, I was able to step away from something that did not align with my integrity. So as members of the board who are serving our community, it is your responsibility to be able to speak. So when you're saying vaccines work, masks work, I was scripted to tell that to patients who then come back and it did not work. So I will not speak a lie just because my supervisor told me to. It's on the agenda or it's in the document in front of me. So I am demanding integrity and honesty. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Perez. And next we have Dan. And Dan, if you could state your last name when you come to speak. Thank you. No, I'm not going to hold you to it.
My name's Dan. I'm a North Bay resident and very concerned. I'm a father, I'm a husband, I'm a soon-to-be grandfather, and I'm here on Adina's behalf because I've been down the rabbit hole, and it's disgusting to hear you say, Mr. Sheffield, that you're following the science. The science is corrupt, and it's sad to see all of you guys abiding in this bullshit. All of you are going to be held accountable for what you're doing. Wait a few more months. Wait until more people get sick from this and die from the heart attacks, clots. I've already had family members do it. I'm sick of it. You guys need to wake up. You need to wake up and quit being told, being yes men and yes women. Stand up. We need you guys. And as for Adina, she should be on that board and running it. She's got a wonderful heart. Everything she shared is true. Figure it out. I'm here. I'm upset. Yes, I am upset. But you know what? Our country's going down the drain. And we need people to stand up and quit these violations, these corrupt crap that's going on. You guys are bought out. It's throughout our whole system. Our police officers can't do what they're told to do. You guys are bought out. You know, stand up. That's what I want to see is men and women to stand up for what's right.
All right, and next blue card is from Linda Cade.
My name is Linda Cade. I'm 5 generations deep in Sonoma County. And I was looking at this vision, Santa Rosa City Schools. I went to school here. And you want the students to be prepared for world empowered and to find their purpose. And so finding your purpose has to do with knowing God and knowing what the purpose going out into the world is not greed and materialism. I also don't know where you're from, Ed Sheffield, and it would be more comforting if you could just say what you mean instead of having to read that whole COVID narrative, because it's disturbing. I don't appreciate you saying that crazy is the new normal, because we don't have to keep doing crazy. We can let kids not wear a mask. I feel like you're wearing masks because you don't want people to see your face. I don't think you're afraid of COVID. I think you probably had your shots. You got plexiglass. What do you need to have a mask on here? Because you don't want people to recognize you? It's shameful. I don't want to say it's the American way, but I don't know what the curriculum is, but if you teach more about God, maybe if there's some lessons about salvation and helping people and doing God's work, which is helping and healing and feeding people. Not, oh, we have a crazy world we live in and we have to be afraid of viruses that vaccines don't even protect us from. Because most of the people I know that got their vaccines, got their COVID, and they're dying. They were afraid of dying of COVID. They got their
Thank you.
vaccines and they're dead.
Thank you, Mrs. Cade.
All right, well, thank you. These are the blue cards that we have. We'll open it up to public comments from those joining us online.
Okay, if there are members of the audience joining us on Zoom and would like to make a comment on a non-agenda item, please raise your hand at this time. I will move you over and allow you to speak. Please unmute and notice the 2-minute timer, please. Our first speaker is Todd. Todd, if you can please state your full name for the record.
Hello, I guess you guys are a board of education. I went through the city of schools of Santa Rosa, and at that time it was a pretty good education. I don't know now. I don't know what you're teaching kids, but I just got two things. I've just recently became aware of Adina Flores's work, and I commend her for that. I'd actually like to recommend her for the town, the key to the city, because she's been doing some good work. I want you guys to look behind you, that American flag. Tell you a quick story. I was on the Coast Guard base yesterday, and one kid that should be in your classroom, but he's a brat, so he's getting a good education on base. He corrected me and said, "Colors. I served. I don't know how many of you served, but this country is free for a reason, because people like me are willing to take a bullet for that freedom." You got to think about that. Think about that hard, because the people on top, the big pharma and the CCP that the Biden administration is enthralled to, that's going to be coming crashing down pretty soon. And there's going to be no protection from the top. You're going to have to deal with the people. And that's who have the power. And another question for the board: why do you guys not teach civics? I'm having to take a constitutional law course on my own, but citizens don't understand their own power anymore. It's crazy to me that citizens, I mean, Literally, a guy had his house taken away. He had to sign a non-disclosure agreement. He made $38 million. You guys don't even have to have a job anymore. Just be a good citizen. You guys are doing so much wrong and you don't know, but my time's running out. Thanks for the hard chargers out there fighting the good fight. I mean, I did my time and I'll go back and do my time. I took an oath for the Constitution. I'll die for that oath. Thank you.
Thank you, Todd. Our next speaker is Melissa. Melissa, if you could please state your full name for the record.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Great, I see someone nodding. Thank you, Omar. Today is my first time joining this meeting. However, I have spoke before in front of large groups, but this is a little nerve-wracking because it's home. I'm a citizen in Santa Rosa, and really I'm just here because I think that there's a lot of conversations and questions being asked behind closed doors with my family members, with my neighbors, with people at the park, with strangers. We're all asking the same questions. We're all noticing trends. We're all seeing things that don't really add up. We all want more transparency. And I think that, I'm ashamed to say this myself, for a long time, I just didn't pay attention or I didn't take notice. And I think now it's a good thing. Our community is bringing us together. And I just wanted to commend Adina Flores for what she's doing. And she's actually out there and saying out loud what I think we're all saying behind closed doors. And I think this is great to have a platform. I thank you very much for giving us, the public, a platform to come here and comment. I do think that there's going to be more comments and more people because of this, our community coming together and asking questions, which I think is so important, and seeing transparency and getting to know who our representatives are here. And I think that that's a great thing. So I just wanted to say thank you for, again, giving this platform. And I look forward to hearing answers to a lot of the questions that have been asked.
Thank you, Melissa. And thank you for being mindful of the 2-minute time limit. Our next speaker is listed as parent. If you could please state your full name for the record.
Hello,
Hello, could you state your name, please?
my name is Sarah,
Thank you, Sarah.
and I couldn't have said things better than the last speaker, so I'll try to keep it short. But to the same sentiment that the last speaker mentioned, there's a lot of things that are happening around us that are making us all pay more attention and to question. And when you join a board, part of what you are signing up for is to undergo scrutiny. And you all know that as you take on this role. And you don't have to like it. You don't, you might get called names, but you don't get to silence the people that are calling the names. You don't get to silence the people that are asking the questions by terminating their employment or by getting rid of them or muting them. People asking questions is a good thing. That's part of democracy. That's part of what our forefathers fought so hard for. And when someone within your organization starts asking questions about nepotism or why certain people are related to, a medical facility that is also funding vineyard workers or things like that, these are all things that are good things. This is transparency. These are the things that we need to be asking about and we need to be wondering about. You don't punish the person that is doing the legwork and that's doing the research for everyone else and that has the gumption to have the voice for other people. You don't punish that person. You answer the questions and you treat them like a human and you treat them like a citizen. The way that Adina Flores has been reprimanded and fired was really appalling, and we want her back. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Our next speaker is Michelle. Michelle, if you could please state your full name for the record. Michelle, go ahead. Michelle, if you're there, it is your turn to talk. If you can state your full name. I think we'll go back to Michelle. If you can please re-raise your hand once we have a better connection. Our next speaker is Sheila Walker.
Hi, good evening, Superintendent Janelle, President Sheffield, and members of the board. I just wanted to come on and I know it's looks like another tough board meeting with different comments, but to any parents that are listening, anyone who has concerns, wants to put students first for Santa Rosa City Schools, I just want to encourage you, anyone that is listening, to go to the Santa Rosa City Schools website and then find where it says Board of Education. And you can find information on how you can actually run for a seat on the board. We have 3 members on the board right now. None of them have children, or these 3 that are seats that are open for a November election. None of them have students in the district. And after my past 2 years of being a parent of a student, I think it's really important that we have more parents on the board. I also feel like the school board is all leans one particular direction. I don't lean a particular direction, but I think that we need some more moderates on the board and people who view things in a different manner, and particularly parents. So please go to the website, look it up. You can call, as I've learned over the past 2 years, you can call in at every meeting. Nothing is going to change until we get parents on the school board. So please check that out. There are 3 seats that are coming open. And the critical thing is you have to file by this Friday, which is August 12th. Again, you have to file by this Friday, August 12th. And you can do that at the county office of elections. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Walker.
Did I sound okay?
We're going to try Michelle again. Michelle, if you're there, can you please unmute and state your full name for the record? Sorry, Michelle, we're not able to connect with you. We could maybe try one more time later in the list. Our next speaker is listed as D. If you could please, I'm going to need to promote him to panelist or her to panelist. If you can please state your full name for the record.
Hi, I'm Denise. Thank you for having me. And thank you all for being there. Like many other speakers today, I feel that I just really need you guys to do your jobs representing the children in education.
Can we ask her to speak up? Can't hear her.
Could you please raise your voice or possibly turn up your volume? We're having a hard time hearing you.
Can you hear me?
That's better. Thank you.
Okay. Sorry, I'm Denise, and thank you for having me. Thank you for being here. I've come on today for the first time to ask that you as a board stand up and let our voices be heard in regards to the education of our children in the Santa Rosa City Schools. I have worked in healthcare for 14 years here in Santa Rosa. My children are high schoolers at Santa Rosa High. I, under no circumstances, will allow them to receive a COVID vaccine. It is against our personal beliefs. Additionally, my son was injured by his newborn vaccines and is not allowed anymore. However, we cannot find a doctor in California willing to put their necks on the line because of all the politics surrounding this COVID quote unquote vaccine. So I'm asking you as a board to please let it be known that there are many many parents out there like us. Look at the numbers for how many kids have gotten the vaccines. The rates are very low because we don't trust it. And we want you to trust us that we know what's best for our children. And we know what's best when we talk to our children's doctors, not when educational professionals are encouraging or even mandating such things. I am here also to support Adina and Shelby. I ran into them and found out that we have very similar views, and they let me know what they've uncovered and what's been going on. And they're amazing people. They're not the crazy that you guys are trying to make them out to be. So
Danae, thank you. Your time is up. I appreciate you calling in. And thank you for being mindful of the 2-minute time limit, everyone. Our next speaker is Christina. Christina, if you could please state your full name for the record.
Hi, my name is Christina. I'm a single mother and a healthcare worker. I've grown up in this county. I went to Steel Lane Elementary School and Santa Rosa High School. Ed, these vaccines don't work. If they did, this pandemic would be over. This is a flu shot that they still can't get right. Both the flu and COVID are coronaviruses. Why haven't they gotten rid of the flu? It's a virus that keeps transforming, right? It keeps adapting. They're not going to get rid of it. Why aren't all of us anti-maskers dead? If your masks work so well and ours don't, shouldn't we all be dead by now? My child is not your lab rat. You do not get to say what we put in their bodies. You can say whatever you want, do whatever you want with your body. Leave our children alone. I'm really getting sick of you people wasting our time. The sooner you answer the financial questions that Adina and Shelby have raised, the sooner you can go back to having a regular board meeting. Until then, here I am, and here the rest of us are, right? We're going to keep coming back and we're going to keep showing up. Every single one of you took an oath of office. Have you forgotten? Do me a favor, read it tonight. Read it and ask yourselves if you are doing it justice, honestly. Do you feel warm and fuzzy like you're doing a good job? Or do you feel shame like Mr. Medina there? Because I can see it every time he turns his eyes away. He doesn't hold a stare. And he always looks down like he's shameful.
Thank you, Christina. Our next speaker is Kelly. Kelly, if you can please state your full name for the record.
Good evening. My name is Kelly. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
I definitely agree with everyone that's spoken tonight. And I truly, every time I go to these meetings or see you via the phone, I wonder what goes through your heads when everybody's asking you these questions. I'm just going to give a little backstory about something that I had written out. In 1994, the CEOs of the 7 largest American tobacco companies testified before Congress and stated under oath that nicotine was not addictive. Today, we know that they lied to us because it was in their financial interests. They conducted a classic gaslight. Gaslighting is a form of deceit used by habitual or pathological liars. They will often lie to your face and never back down, even when confronted with proof of their deception. The congressional hearings were held by Chairman Henry Waxman in 1994 on television in full public view. Tobacco executives were called upon to answer publicly for the poisoning and killing of millions of Americans with cigarettes. Most Americans think that morality and ethics would suspend the profit motive, just this once for the sake of saving the world for COVID-19. But unfortunately, many continue to believe that vaccines are quote unquote free and being offered as a public service out of the goodness of Pfizer's and Moderna's hearts. Our tax dollars have gone directly to Pfizer. Ivermectin, the safe miracle drug, which has been around for decades for humans, was suppressed while people were intentionally murdered. Pfizer has some of the greatest criminal fines of all history. In all actuality, Ms. Flores has been protecting all of you from the government's lies. She continues to prove the facade through the financials, and in return, she's been ridiculed, threatened, harassed, and silenced for asking questions. I've personally witnessed this maltreatment over the past several months. I honestly, truly wonder what you guys think about any of this. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. Our next speaker is Karen Wagner. And again, we're at 2 minutes, non-public comment.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Karen, and I just want to say to the families and students and all the staff, welcome back. I'm wishing you a smooth morning transition and that you all are happy and that you will have joy in your day. As I'm saying this, I'm listening to everybody, and I don't know. But I just want to say that I am a classified employee. I do work in the classrooms with the children's, with your kiddos. I am there for them, and it's, it is definitely, emotion over and content. We just kind of connect with them, and then we teach them, right? So anyways, I'm hoping for a good year for everybody, and that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Karen. Our next speaker is Jen Ma.
Good evening, board. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. I am a 4th generation Sonoma County resident. I'm also a parent who has been following Ms. Flores and her fiance through their journey. I'm also here to speak on their behalf. I'm in complete awe of what they have been doing and what they continue to do with the information and the transparency they continue to bring forward. I'm incredibly concerned about the fact that the media and the government and you guys continue to silence her. Many of us are afraid to speak up because of this, and Ms. Flores has been advocating for all of us and for our children. And there are many, many of us who feel the same way. And we understand with these actions, it's clear we're not living in a free country when people are silenced for bringing up truths and being persecuted for speaking and sharing these truths that go against what the media and the government might be saying. Why does our employer believe they have the entitlement to confirm the validity of our faith? For example, when requesting a religious exemption, it's really actually against federal law to require that. And it's still being done. And we all know this isn't about our health. It hasn't been about our health. We can just take a look around and see with our own eyes what's happening. And you guys need to understand that. And Ms. Flores has proven this on many, many occasions and continues to, and you guys refuse to answer her questions. And we all have these same questions, and we would like answers to them as well. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Deanna Oliveras.
Hi, board. This is Deanna Oliveras. I have a few things I wanted to say. The first is I'm still very upset. I've been speaking for this for about 2 years about the board dropping the ball and taking school resource officers off of campus. I've done a public records request, and I've seen a lot of information, email, text messages, etc. And basically, it all shows me that you all dropped the ball because 1 or 2 board members felt really passionate about police officers being racist after George Floyd's death. And going into this school season tomorrow, it scares me. Not COVID. COVID doesn't scare me. Not masking doesn't scare me. But what scares me is our campuses. and our children being bullied, and our children not having enough adults on campus they can confide in, and random people coming on campus. I wasn't allowed on campus because I wasn't vaccinated last year. Many of us weren't. And I'm finally realizing that this is what you guys are trying to do, right? A lot of the teachers were let go or they left because they didn't want to test or get vaccinated. Parents are now homeschooling or taking their kids out, taking out a second job to go to private school. Parents like me that spent 10 years in school districts volunteering, now we're not involved as much anymore. And I see what you're doing now because you're alleviating the problems. That to me seems like kind of like a civil rights issue. We're a minority and we're not respected or heard. We might not all be the same color, the same gender, but we have a few things in common, and that makes us a minority. And it seems like in this county, this is probably the biggest minority that I could see is us, our group, that won't be heard and that are being silenced. And we get 2 minutes if we're lucky on a school board. We don't get to go protest in the streets like you guys do and scream and yell at police. We get 2 minutes for you to listen to us.
Thank you, Ms. Oliveras. Our next speaker is Nicole. Nicole, if you can please state your full name for the record. Again, it's 2 minutes on a non-public, non-agenda item, public comment. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Nicole Zahowski, and like everybody else here that has spoken before me, I'm just here to echo what everyone else is saying in support of Adina Flores. It's repulsive that you guys are taking these kickbacks and making these deals and involving yourselves in nepotism, all at the sake of the kids. I'm curious how many of you have even bothered to look at the VAERS data. How many of you have bothered to look into the myocarditis numbers and the deaths and all of that with all of the athletes that's been happening all over the world, really? To turn a blind eye to that is evil. So while you may be getting away in this life, there's a higher judge. And I'm just echoing what all the other parents are saying. And your time is ticking. You guys are going to have to produce the proof because it's within our rights. And parents are educating themselves and they're learning about their rights. Shame on every single one of you. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Jamie. Jamie, if you could please state your full name for the record.
Hi, this is Jamie. My name is Jamie Denning. There's a few things that I wanted to run through really fast. Were y'all aware in Sonoma Valley Union School District that a teenager had cardiac arrest and he was saved by one of the AED machines that was donated by a nonprofit organization because of all of the vaccines causing myocarditis in young people? If with all the money that you're receiving from all of the COVID fraud money, at least put these machines in all of the schools. So that way, even though you're making them take these heart injuring drugs called mRNA gene therapy, which is not an actual vaccine, according to Pfizer itself, just in February 2020, they put out a paper stating that they need more research and carefully designed clinical trials to ensure their research program can meet regulatory requirements. They know back before COVID vaccine that it actually had problems with people's immune systems and all kinds of other different problems. And they said they were not going to put it out to the mass public until they had more clinical trials. And yet, as soon as the vaccine, all the money for the funding for the COVID vaccine came through, boom, they throw it in with the spike protein, and then there's your vaccine. And it's not even a vaccine, it's a gene therapy. And there are many laws that I'll be here next week and tell you all about the laws you're breaking when you fire people because of the vaccine.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Erica Call. Apologize if I didn't pronounce your last name, Erica. Go ahead.
That's okay. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Oh, wonderful. Okay, my name is Erica and I'm here to support Adina. I agree with all the speakers. We're in some sort of spiritual war, and there are too many children suffering enough already for the last 2 years of masking and being told to be afraid of a virus. We are past the scary part. It has evolved and will keep on doing so. I'm a hairdresser and I'm hearing all kinds of stories. It's all mixed across the board of people still getting COVID, whether they are vaccinated or not. They get it as equal. So that's like another story, but the fear needs to end and the children need to focus on other things. And thank you for listening.
Thank you, Erica. Our next speaker is Arinelli Alonso.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so good evening, board. As people of color, we have absolutely no voice in our community. If we do not agree with your politics, we're shunned and silenced. Education should in no way, shape, or form be driven by a political narrative. Board decisions should be based on the best interest of children and staff rather than profit. This is not the case. As indicated in Pfizer's biological license application dated August 23rd, 2021, pediatric trials were deferred in their eternity for children under 16. Why were both Marin and Sonoma County considering mandating student vaccinations during that time period? Absolutely zero clinical trials had been completed and the required studies won't be completed until 2027. Ms. Flores has been an advocate in this community to help us become involved in governance. She's a government employee who's been unable to receive a single answer for almost a year. She understands why the stakeholders have no faith in the system. She has nothing to gain by speaking up, but everything to lose. I'm grateful for her advocacy to protect my child. Our trust in the government has been lost. As parents, we should be able to make medical choices for our children, not school teachers. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is listed as Fat Boys. If you can please state your full name for the record.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, can you please tell us your name?
I'm Jessica Tillis.
Thank you, Jessica.
I'm just here also a friend of Adina and Skylar Palacio. And I was just on Adina's page earlier today and I saw the scripture Philippians 2:4 that said, let each of you look not only to his own interests, but also to the interests of others. And I thought that was just a good way to explain how she's trying to represent the kids. And last week the other week I was able to talk about my daughter who had a vaccine injury, a seizure, right while she had her vaccine, and how my kids are unable to go to school now because they have to go to homeschool because the requirements. And I tried to go to the doctor actually a few weeks ago or last week, and my doctor was saying that they have a new law now that says you have to try the drug vax before you can get a waiver. And he joked around and said, you have to see if your head explodes or else you can't get a waiver from it. And I thought that was sad because of all the kids that have had encephalitis or anaphylactic shock from the vaccines where your brain actually does swell up, and it's just so many different people that have been affected. And I'm just wondering, like my dad told me, don't ever send your family member to the hospital. You need to watch them, keep an eye on them. And I couldn't go to the doctor with my daughter because she needed someone to help speak for her and they won't let you inside the hospital. So there seems like there's just a lot of things going on that are not right. And I'm just praying that people will consider other people's interests and not just their own. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jessica. Our next speaker is Sasha Rose.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Great. Okay, thank you very much. I just wanted to also speak on behalf of support for Adina Flores. She's come to my attention as being someone who is really asking some key questions about corruption and in the system. It seems like there is corruption. And I've really appreciated her advocacy for truth. And it's really concerning to hear that she's been put on administrative leave. And it's really concerning to see this continual pattern of a whole minority segment of the community really being ignored by those who are in public service to that community. So I hope that you will do the right thing and get the answers to these questions so the public can understand the integrity of those who have been put in these positions, and to not kill the messenger, so to speak. If someone's coming and advocating and asking questions, not to shut her down, but to actually engage in the process of transparency, because that's what we have in this country. We have something that is so precious. We have this democracy. And from every angle that I can see it, that is very much in jeopardy right now at the local level, at the national level. So we need transparency. We need, if there is corruption, we need to get to the bottom of it. And certainly for those who are asking the questions and seeking truth, we need to listen and respond and be in integrity. Thank you very much. I hope that you will all really take all of these comments to heart and do the right thing this next year in the way that you respond to your commitment and your promise to be servants of the public and most especially of our children.
Thank you, Ms. Rose. Our next speaker is Erin McCarthy.
Good evening. I've been employed from Santa Rosa City Schools for 31 years, starting in November, being my 31st year. And I'm calling because on Monday, CSEA is going to the table with the district to talk about wages. And I'm calling in because there's an article that was in the Press Democrat regarding how much it costs to have a 2-bedroom, I believe it was a 2-bedroom house or apartment in different cities in Sonoma County. And all of them were stating that you had to have at least $30 or more an hour. Many places were going up to in the 40s to be able to afford a place to live. And I wanted to state that our starting wage for a noon duty is $15.04. And I want the board and cabinet to consider that when it comes to Monday, that you consider where we are. We're nowhere near, unfortunately, that $30 or more wage for employees. And a lot of times there's single parents that are trying to care for their children. And I just feel like it needs to be considered when it comes to Monday. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. McCarthy. Our next speaker is Margaret Boone.
Hi, I just heard what the last speaker said about the fact that you're voting on CSEA wages on Monday, and I'm very excited about that. I hear good things are happening, and I hope that we're going to make a lot of progress. I've spoken a few times about how underpaid our classified staff are and how many of them hold 2 jobs, and that continues to still be true for our classified staff. And we use a lot of outside agencies now to staff our classes, and we have to pay them way more than we pay to our classified staff. So it would just be more economical as well. And I really agree with the last speaker that I hope that we do something to bring them up to a wage. Thank you.
Thank you, Margaret. President Sheffield, there are no other hands raised for public comment.
All right, thank you. We did have a blue card, another blue card come in. We will accept the card. It's from Minerva Regina, who's in the house. This is the last blue card we have on this.
My name is
Minerva Regina, and I am a Santa Rosa resident. And I'm here in support of Adina Flores. And I also wanted to state that I agree with a lot of what she said. The reason why I gravitated towards her is because I had these ideas and also feelings about what she's saying as being true. And I feel that it's just as easy to buy a politician as it is a scientist, or the reverse. But anyway, what I'm trying to say is that these vaccines are experimental and they should not be allowed to, or required in schools until they are deemed safe. We've already seen that there's an organization that was surreptitiously gathering information here in Sonoma County on students who were vaccinated for and trying to figure out, taking baseline studies of their heart health. And so to me, that says a lot, because it seems like the lack of transparency is actually exposing or showing that there's something to hide. So I implore you to do your civic duty and actually support Adina and support the people of this county and city, and help them be healthy and not have to fall or have to succumb to this vaccine, which is not a vaccine. It's, as the other speaker said, is gene therapy. And anything that changes your DNA, in my opinion, goes against God's plan for us. And so for me, I just can only point to Revelations 18:23, where it talks about pharmakia.
Thank you. The 2-minute time limit is up. Thank you.
All right, well, thank you to all who spoke on items that are issues and concerns to the district. And, you know, sometimes emotions get high, and I get that, and want to just appreciate everyone for keeping things civil and professional tonight. We do have kids who attend our meetings. So, you know, that's what we're all about. We're about the kids, we're about the school district. So thank you. We're going to move on to the D items, our reports. I'm going to start with D1, California School Employees Association report. Do we have President Mary Lehman in the house? Or online?
Don't believe that we have a report from Ms. Lehman tonight.
Okay, we are going to be moving on to our SRTA report. We have President Catherine Howell. Welcome.
Down so you can see me. Good evening, President Sheffield, Superintendent Trunell, members of the board, members of the community that are watching on Zoom. Thanks for getting this meeting going on the day before the first day of school. I think our teachers are excited and ready. Had 3 days of professional development and preparation. And I wanted to welcome all the new educators. I saw about 50 of them last Friday in a really well-attended orientation. And they all seem to be very excited to be in Santa Rosa City Schools. So that was nice. And welcome to all of our new administrators. I know a number of our schools have new principals as well as new vice principals and assistant principals, and we welcome them and hope for a great year together. Thank you for the quick negotiations. It truly was less than 3 hours, I want to say, for our latest return to school safety MOU that you will be looking at today. It was an easy arrival. Steve Mazzara said, well, it's been working on it for 2 years. So that's true too. It is very much just reiterating the CDPH guidelines and making sure that our classrooms remain well ventilated and that PPE remains available. But I wanted to point out and thank the district for continuing to provide extra paid time off for COVID illness, as well as extra pay for an anticipated increase in the number of makeup students that will need makeup work throughout the course of the school year. So those are great things in that MOU, and we thank you for it and hope that it gets approved by this board. We are looking forward to working together with the bond issues if those are approved this evening. Santa Rosa Teachers Association is willing to support those bonds as long as there is a transparent and inclusive spending program and policy. As educators in the district working in these buildings, we know what's needed. The great deal of deferred maintenance that didn't actually happen the first time around needs to happen this time around. We need to make sure that our classrooms and workspaces are clean, dry, safe, warm for our students. What else is today's agenda? The 45-day budget presentation was kind of an eye-opener with a lot of one-time money coming in. And there's about $14+ million in the Learning Recovery Emergency Block Grant. And we hope and encourage that this district will choose to use that to eliminate as much as possible elementary combo classes, as well as shrink class size at the secondary level by hiring teachers, adding sections. We know that this district and this board has already done a lot of work in towards eliminating, reducing the number of combo classes at our elementary schools. I think this would be an opportunity to try to eliminate them for at least 1 year. Might be a big challenge because we still have vacancies, but we could see what would happen if we allocated that money towards trying to hire some people. And we all know that smaller class sizes are better for students. So that would be absolutely a good use of that money. And what else? Finally, I'm going to, once again, as I've been doing for a number of months, ask why this board continues to uphold a policy that has created a 2-tier system of initial salary placement for teachers that come into the district. Teachers with military service hired after 2019 get credit for that. Teachers with military service before 2019 still do not get credit for that. We've been asking this question since 2019, and here we are, starting yet another school year, hiring another group of people who are being treated differently, being paid differently than the long-term, long-serving teachers that are dedicated to Santa Rosa City Schools. It's time that that policy be looked at. It's time that that policy be changed and brought to this board for change and adoption. It is not part of our contract. It is absolutely board policy that we have to adhere to. And so it is not a negotiable item. The only thing I can do is ask you, meeting after meeting, month after month, to please consider this policy and change it so that the way our teachers are placed on the salary schedule and the way our teachers are paid is equitable, regardless of what year you were hired by Santa Rosa City Schools. So thank you for that.
Okay, it looks like we have a disruption. Thank you so much, Catherine. Got some minstrels outside. All right, we're going to continue on. We do have President Lehman online joining us, and we can bring her over.
Ms. Lehman is on her way over. Thank you.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Can you hear me? Hi. Good evening, President Sheffield, Superintendent Chanel, Board of Trustees, Student Board member, and the community. Thank you, members who are listening tonight and those who spoke up. Welcome back to school, everyone. Students, classified, certificated, admins, the board, new and returning. It has been a challenging few weeks, but we are excited and ready or not, for tomorrow. We want to thank Anna for her welcome video. The Central Kitchen wants to thank Director Ed Burke for teaching the Safe Serve certification class because all of their staff passed the first time they took it this year. We want to thank the HR staff for working overtime to get all of the new teachers and support staff on board, and I'm sure they're working now. We thank you for our professional development day that we had Monday. Let's all stand up and shout out, "Go team." Our members bring purpose and passion to our jobs. Most of us are or have been parents of students at our schools. Let's get some of these parents on the board. We make a difference in the lives of the students we serve. We make a difference every day, working together every day. Let's build trust back in our school community this year. We deserve better. Thank you.
Thank you, President Lehman. Go team.
Go team.
And thank you again, President Howell, as well. We're going to keep pushing on through the meeting. We are moving on to our superintendent report. Superintendent Trunell, a report for tonight.
Can you hear me?
And maybe speak really close to the microphone.
Can you hear me? I'll look really closely. Okay. First, I just want to ask for some grace. I just recently became like a regular eyeglasses wearer. And so I'm trying to navigate that new life for reading close up and being able to see far. So tomorrow begins day one of the return to school for the 22-23 school year. Hooray. We are super excited to greet our students and families, and a lot of energy has gone into making sure that everything is ready for tomorrow. To kick off this year, our social media theme will be #SRCS Hearts and Minds. You may recall last year, our tagline in social media was #SRCS Gratitude Attitude. So this year it's #SRCS Hearts and Minds. We appreciate the opportunity to serve the students and families in our community. And this is the heart work that we do every day. We are fully focused on a safe return to school for everyone in person 5 days a week. Part of the preparation this summer included all administrators receiving active shooter and emergency incident training. On Monday of this week, all of our educators participated in continued professional development on social emotional learning supports for students. These efforts are among our priorities for a safe return to school. We will continue COVID safety practices, including the availability of masks, both KN95 and surgical, isolation tents, tents for outdoor eating, availability of antigen test kits, and cleaning protocols. Masking will continue to be strongly recommended in order to minimize exposure and cases. And we will continue to offer testing for both symptomatic and asymptomatic students and staff. Last year, at the beginning of the school year, we worked to minimize exposure and the spread of COVID by limiting the number of people on the school campus. By the end of the school year, we opened up our campuses again so that parents could walk their children onto campus for drop-off and pickup and to volunteer. For this school year, due to the lower case rates, families are welcome to drop off and pick up their children on campus. Any parent wishing to volunteer on campus should check in with the school office regarding the process to register as a volunteer. We continue to work with our West County transportation partner on providing and improving busing services. Please know that like many industries that are affected by the pandemic, right now, West County Transportation is experiencing a shortage in drivers and is in need of 30 drivers right now. If anyone is interested in becoming a school bus driver, please contact West County Transportation for more information. The last thing I'd like to share is that I want to thank this board and our staff for the hard work we do together and for everything we will do collectively this year to support students and families. And I hand it back to you, President Sheffield.
Thank you, Superintendent Trunell. We are moving on to Agenda item D4, the president's report. I do not have a report tonight, so I'm going to open it up to board members for D5, board member reports. Board members, let's see, Trustee McCormick.
Yeah, I just want to invite and encourage people to attend our first Made in Santa Rosa Foundation, Education Foundation fundraiser event. It will be Thursday, September 8th. It's a luncheon, and all proceeds are going to go into the money that we're building. And if you haven't checked out our Made in Santa Rosa Education Foundation yet, it is a program that was set up a few years ago when we had a large donation come in to help supplement enrichment programs at our K through 8 schools, so our elementary schools and our middle schools. And the exciting thing about it is it also distributes grants for those enrichment programs, including the arts and athletics and field trips and things like that. But the grants are given and decided upon based on using a lens of equity, which is kind of a new thing that we've done with this foundation, and we're really excited about it. So as we're coming out of COVID, we're excited to do an actual in-person luncheon. And if you have any questions, there's lots of ways to support us. Even if you can't come to the luncheon, we're still looking for sponsors and donations, but we'd love to have you there. So please feel free to email me if you want more information on that.
So save the date.
September 8th, Thursday, September 8th.
All right, thank you, Trustee McCormick. Other trustees? Yes. Sorry, we're going all the way down to our student board member unofficially.
So I was fortunate enough to attend Pioneer High School's freshman orientation last night. It was really amazing to see how many parents and incoming students attended, especially after the last couple of difficult years. I personally found this new sense of normalcy that we're all adjusting to in our educational environment. I was also able to give a small speech last night, and I wanted to also give a warm welcome to all our students, staff, and the rest of our community in our district. I've been in the Santa Rosa City Schools District ever since I was in kindergarten, and it's really exciting to see that I'll be a senior starting tomorrow. So I just wanted to send my love and wish everyone a happy first day of school tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Excellent work, Trustee Bowie. All right. Do we have other board members? Trustee De La Cruz.
Thank you. So excited for the first day of school to happen tomorrow. I got to earlier today join a back to school picnic at one of our elementary sites and was really moved by how many open positions we still have. And so I just wanted to encourage people in our community to really look at spending a half day, recognizing we have lots of flexibility and lots of creativity with some of these positions on campus. The importance of family engagement facilitators and parents and people who love hanging out with kids to join children on the playground and during lunchtime as yard duties. These are all amazing ways to make sure that our kids are supported and have the love and kind of, presence of adults who care about them in their schools. So please take a good hard look at some of our jobs. Thank you to the district and all of our labor partners for their work and really making sure that we have not only sustainable wages, but living wages for everybody in our community. So please go take good hard looks and come hang out with Santa Rosa City Schools to support this year being an excellent one. Thank you.
Very nice. Thank you, Trustee De La Cruz. Other board members? All right, we are moving on to agenda item D6, our CSBA report. Do we have a report?
Yeah, actually, can you hear me? Yeah. So,
and board members, we really have to speak. I'm bad at this, but we still have some
can you hear me now?
noise going on. Yep, there we go.
Is that better? Okay. So, I, along with Trustee Fong, will be attending the California Latino School Board Association in Monterey, California, from August 25th through the 28th. I know I'm going to be there the entire weekend. You're going to be there for a day, I think, and then you're going to be a guest panelist, from what I hear. Nice. And I believe our trustee Fong also has an announcement to make regarding CSBA.
So this is for our board. CSBA, California School Board Association, is running elections for the delegate at large for the API position and for the Latino position. And they take nominations until September 30th from local educational agencies. So if this board wants to nominate somebody, we should do it sometime in one of our meetings in September. So an API person could be nominated, Latino person can be nominated. Actually, I don't think they have to be Latino or API. They just have to be, want to be that representative, I think. I'm not sure, actually.
You have to self-identify it as one of those.
Self-identify. Okay, so we can talk about if you want to be nominated.
Would you like to be nominated, Trustee
I
Fong?
think you know.
All right, well, we can definitely talk about this. If people are seeking nominations, definitely let's bring it to our attention. Any other reports, Trustee Flores, CSBA? All right, seeing none, we are moving on to our E items, our discussion action items. We are going to start with item E1, approval of a resolution calling for an election authorizing the issuance of general obligation bonds. The board will consider a resolution to place a general obligation bond measure on the November 8th, 2022 ballot with the elementary school district, which would authorize the issuance of 125 million of general obligation bonds. And presenting this tonight, we have, well, I'm going to turn it over to you, Superintendent Trunell.
Thank you, Board President Sheffield. Can everyone hear me? Okay, try to speak a bit louder. I also want to welcome Eric Oden, as well as Charles Heath and Meredith Johnson, who Charles and Meredith are joining us virtually for this item. Board, as you may recall, Board President Sheffield, members of the board, community in person and online. At the last meeting, we brought forward some discussion related to the polling outcomes of the potential of a bond going forward. And tonight, we bring forward to you this first resolution that is specifically for the elementary district. And just for the public to know, because we have an elementary district and a high school district, these items do need to be separate. And so for tonight, we're asking the board to consider the approval of a resolution calling for the election authorizing the issuance of general obligation bonds for the elementary district. This authorization would be a potential issuance of $125 million of general obligation bonds. I will pause here to see if our partners or Mr. Oden have additional comments. Hearing none. And I don't know if they're trying. I know we've had some internet issues. Mr. Heath?
Yeah, I would just reiterate that at your last meeting, we shared the results of the public opinion survey that give us confidence that if we put these measures on the ballot, they are likely to generate the levels of support needed for passage. We saw support between 10 and 20 percentage points above the 55% passage threshold. So that's what gave us the confidence to make the recommendation that if you put these measures on the ballot, we think there's a good chance for success in November. And the resolutions that you're considering tonight are based on that polling in order to reflect the community's priorities in these proposals. And happy to answer any questions that you may have.
And with that, I do hand it back to you, Board President Sheffield, for the board consideration of resolution number 2022-23-13.
Thank you, Superintendent Trunell. Yes, this is an action item. So at this time, board members, do we have questions? We have, Trustee McCormick.
I may have missed this earlier, but I just wanted to double check. Do these bonds include our charter schools?
I can help you with that. Hi, I'm Meredith Johnson from Danis Welliver Kelly. I've worked as the district's bond counsel since the 2014 elections. So under California law, school districts are permitted to use their bond proceeds to improve charter schools in the same manner that they can improve their own, as we call them, district schools. So legally, yes, you would be permitted to use these bond proceeds if you wanted to for charter schools.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? We have Trustee Medina.
Thank you, President Sheffield. Just a question to Superintendent Janelle. In regards to our last meeting, I just asked for follow-up on potential collaboration or communication with or partnership in terms of plan for the future, in terms of collaborating with our stakeholders internally, like our labor groups and stuff. Was there any work done between last meeting and now in terms of that?
Yes, thank you for the question. So there will be two phases to this if the board chooses to approve these tonight. There is a planning committee towards the campaign for the bond that will begin. And then there will be a separate process to begin to gather input for the potential of the usage of the bonds. That's where our facilities master plan work also does come into play. But again, that will be sort of a two-part phase-in process, one for the campaign and then the second for input into the process.
But was there any dialogue between last meeting and this meeting around what that work could look like, or was that opportunity not available?
So the first part, actually, there will be a meeting. Yes, there are a group of stakeholders that are ready to start the beginning phase of the conversation around planning. And from that session, there will be opportunity to discuss then how do we move forward with the input process.
Thank you.
I have a
Board
question.
members, other questions? Yes, Trustee Flores.
Yeah, so I was looking at the previous facilities master plan. It was pretty extensive. It was like 500 pages. Well, yes. So it was quite a reading. So I wanted to see if there is any sort of prioritization in terms of what projects were left unfinished from our last bond, right? And any of those are going to take priority because we didn't get to finish those. And what's the tier system of prioritization to make sure that projects are being done on time?
Oh, I'm on. Okay. So if I understand the question, you're wanting to know sort of what has already been done, that has already been prioritized, and what will be the system for prioritization going forward.
Right. So, I mean, while I was reading that, there seems to be a lot of projects that were not finished, right? I mean, that is just the nature of the beast, right? I mean, inflation and all of that. So I want to see what sort of projects, and I don't need to know an answer right now, but I'd like to know if there is a system in place to make sure that we have a prioritization system to make sure that those projects will be prioritized in terms of making sure that they get finished, or if there is a different set of attributes that we're looking for in terms of what we are going to prioritize this time around. So
yes, there is a prioritization system. There's actually two ways that we can look at this. And Mr. Oden, if you would like to jump in at all, please do. But from my understanding, there are two ways that we can look at this. One is the facilities master plan itself. There are certain pieces of that plan that, yes, have been completed and many other things that have not. Within that plan, we would have to do a reevaluation of what's there. There are some updates that do need to happen as that plan was approved in 2016. Some of our facilities have been changed, if you will, as far as schools and locations, and also figures. So that would be actually a priority that we would have to engage in the process, whether that be a short-term or a long-term is another discussion. One is we could do a quick analysis now, which would take probably about 2 months. And then on the long term, if we wanted to wait for the potential of the bond to be approved by the voters, then we would do a lengthier reassessment that would bring everything up to scale, including some new priorities.
and how long would that take?
That's about 3 to 6 months.
And that would be paid with bond money, I'm assuming?
That is correct.
Okay. And do we have a projected expense on that?
As of right now, for the new one, if we were to do a
Right.
complete overhaul, I do not have that figure tonight.
Okay. In the bond, we did see that there's a short version, right, and the long version that's going to go on the ballot. I did see that construction for pre-kindergarten and TK facilities are part of it. But those were not part of the original plan because that's a new set of ask. Where in the priority, scale are those projects being placed?
So as far as current budgets, I don't have those figures in front of me. Perhaps Mr. Dantos could speak to those when we get to the budget item, or if you want to come up now. But in regard to the future, if the bonds were approved by the voters, then we know that we would be prioritizing TK, even with the state's potential movement towards supporting some of that as mandated costs. The bonds would actually assist us because those funds that we would get would not cover everything. Am I being? Okay. Okay.
Mr. Dantos, let's have you come up. We want to speak into the microphone. A lot of what we're addressing are people who are joining us virtually. Thank you.
So yeah, we are going down the road of the state TK program and expansion, and we will need probably some facility solutions for that. The local bond measures are our, from a financial perspective, our preferred usage for facility needs. There are some state bonds in the budget that we could use to leverage our local bonds facilities for facilities. Like for example, but those state bonds are available to use with some requirements. You would have to qualify for them, but they would be on like you could get funded at a percentage, and then you would have to finance the remaining percentage yourself, but you could use those local bonds to finance that. Yeah, but we certainly, our local bonds would be our preferred usage of financing for our TK facility needs.
So historically, deferred maintenance has taken priority, right? And rightly so, right? I'm not saying that we shouldn't, but I think we should take a two-pronged approach as to, deferred maintenance and those newer facilities that we have to have because we need to be fully funded and have fully capabilities by 2025 in terms of TK, right? So I just want to make sure that we are mindful when we're using the funds that that go to deferred maintenance, but at the same time we're building the capacity that we need to make sure that we have the buildings and the facilities for our pre-K and TK programs.
Yeah, certainly. And if we're about to come into the 45-day budget revise agenda next, and I don't have a lot of information on this, but if you recall, the budget came out of the governor's office proposal, and there was language around supporting deferred maintenance costs. And unfortunately, that did not make it into the final budget. So that is something we have to address our facilities needs, budgets, but local bond manager will be our preferred facilities use funding for that. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Other questions from the board? Yes, Trustee Fong.
I have a question about, and I'm sorry if I missed this. By August 12th, we need to file that resolution with the county, right? What actually goes, is that later? What actually goes as a description of the bond to the voters? And we have to file that by when?
I'm actually going to ask our partners, perhaps Meredith, to share what actually goes and what needs to be filed by tomorrow, because I know that they're preparing for that in the event of the board's action tonight.
I'd be happy to help with that. So the entire resolution that's being approved this evening, both of the resolutions, those get turned in to the county tomorrow or Friday. I actually have already spoken with them, so they know that this meeting is happening tonight and that the board is considering the resolutions, and there's the possibility that they would be approved and turned in. If you look at the resolution, there are exhibits. So Exhibit A and Exhibit B are actually the ballot materials. Exhibit A will be printed in its entirety in the sample ballot that goes home to voters. That is, we kind of call it the full text ballot measure. It includes all of the accountability provisions. And then it also includes the project list, which the voters get to review, and then the district uses when it decides to spend bond proceeds. Any project that's undertaken with elementary school district bond proceeds must appear on this project list that's printed in Exhibit A to the resolution that's being considered tonight. Exhibit B is the shorter 75-word ballot question. You can see people asking, why is there a question mark at the end? That's actually the question that voters read when they're looking at their ballot, whether they're at home with their absentee or they're in the polling booth, and they vote yes or no on that question. Shall Santa Rosa Elementary School District issue bonds or shall they not issue bonds? So those are the materials that constitute your election. There's except other than this resolution, the only other materials that the district will turn into the registrar will be an argument in favor of the election. But other than that, this resolution completes the election materials that need to be turned into the county.
Thank you, Meredith. Do we have additional questions from the board? All right, seeing none. Again, this is an action item, so we are going to go to public comment. I do not have any blue cards in the house for public comment, but let's open it up to our folks online.
If there are members attending the meeting on Zoom and would like to comment on item E1, please raise your virtual hand at this time. Our first speaker is Rob Jewell. And again, this is item E1. If you can keep your comment to this agenda item. Thank you.
So this is Rob Jewell. I'm a resident of Santa Rosa. I grew up and went to school here.
Rob, would you be able
I-
to speak up a little bit or turn your volume up?
Is this better?
Yes, a little bit better.
All right, hang on 1 second. Never mind. So ultimately, I'm just kind of wondering as I look at my property taxes from last year and the values that I'm already paying for taxes for this, I'm wondering why you're asking for more than double what I'm already paying relative to the, at least for the high school district and the Lincoln Valley district. The elementary school district is the same. I'm paying 4 cents already, and you're asking for another 3 for elementary schools. And so it seems like it just keeps getting asked and asked and asked, and I don't know, I'm not quite sure that the money's being actually spent appropriately. But I got nothing else to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. Any other members of the public who would like to comment on item E1? The election authorizing the issuance of general obligation bonds. Please raise your hand at this time. I don't see any. Oh, apologize. Our next speaker is Margaret Boone.
Hi, I just wanted to talk about how important it is that we do address the deferred maintenance at the schools. I asked the teachers around Montgomery to share some of the things that need fixing there. And I didn't get a ton of comments because we're all trying to get ready for back to school. But the 8 comments that I got, one person said the counter around their sink is falling apart. Multiple blinds are broken from age. Outside screens are ripped. Another person said they have a leaking roof, AC and heater shutting off while trying to warm up or cool down the classroom. And someone needs to babysit it to keep it at the right temperature. Another person said 90% of their desks are cracked or broken, and it's a safety hazard for students. And many of the colleagues have a similar desk problem, and they've been told there's no new money for desks. Another person said the drapes in the classroom are broken, and they don't completely attach the runner anymore. They've been mended many times, but they can't be mended anymore. And they would like mini blinds, but there's no money for that. Another comment, chairs in Performing Arts Center is broken, water damage in the lobby, dance room leaks anytime it rains. Someone comes out to fix it, but it's never fully fixed. Electrical outlets don't work or are virtually impossible to plug into, and door to the classroom cannot be propped open. And outside portable siding is peeling off, and there's mold as a result of that. I know that the portables next to me have dry rot on the walls and carpet that had a sewage leak on it many years ago. And so just deferred maintenance is a huge issue, as well as technology. I was at Ridgeway for, sorry, I'm outside, ESY, and they didn't have, they don't have any way to show things aside from using a projector. And it was just very difficult to teach without any way to show things otherwise. So just
Thank you. Thank you, Margaret.
Thank you.
There are no other hands raised.
All right. Well, thank you, Margaret. Thank you, speakers, for bringing these issues to our attention. We're going to bring it back to the board. Again, this is an action item.
I have another question.
Oh, we have another. Oh, well, I'm sorry. I was going to bring it back to the board for questions. Are you?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Thank you.
So, can you hear me? Yes. So, in terms of the Oversight Committee that we need to set up within 60 days of if we approve this, is that a board decision that needs to happen between now and in 60 days? So it'll be brought up to our attention next time. Is this something that is going to be done? I don't know. Is the Oversight Committee something that we have to approve as to who is going to be there or whatnot? So how does that work in terms of us being informed of that Oversight Committee being informed?
Thank you. So the Oversight Committee or Planning Committee, whatever the title, is actually a volunteer committee. It does not require board action to move forward. We can move forward as soon as tomorrow. The one thing that everyone should understand is that because the work would be towards the potential positive vote on the ballot, it cannot be during work time. The work cannot include any district resources whatsoever, which includes meeting space, Zoom accounts, computers, etc. And it's, again, volunteer. So we are working with our partners here, Charles and Meredith, who will be assisting us and guiding us, and also working to have a community member as the chair of the committee. Again, people from the community. We will have representation from the labor groups. This initial meeting tomorrow is just to get the discussion started, and the committee will expand. And again, it'll be after work hours and voluntary. The work that I think Director Medina was speaking of is a little bit different in terms of gathering input from the community on some ways of prioritizing and needs. And so we'll be navigating both of those, understanding what we can do during district time. Board members, the ins and outs of what board members can and can't do during this process, which I will provide to you.
And this is something I would like to know as to what are we doing to attract a robust and diverse committee? I know it's not something that we're going to discuss, but it'll be kind of nice to have, an announcement or something where we can go and find out what sort of steps we're taking to make sure that we attract a robust and diverse committee.
As a district, we legally are not able to advocate. Sort of me, for example, during district time as district business in my role as a superintendent, cannot advertise, which is advocacy. But the committee can discuss how we're going to get the word out and what those networks will be.
Wait, so how are we attracting these people if we can't publicize it?
So you want me to go into the behind the scenes, how we got
No,
there?
an email would be great, but it's just
It's personal emails, personal phone numbers. that
Okay.
will be used
Superintendent
to-
Trinnell,
Yes, sorry,
Can I
Charles, thank
offer
you.
just a point of clarification here? Because I think
Okay.
there's two different things we're talking about here. So
Thank you.
everything you've said about the restriction on avoiding use of any public resources for the advocacy for the bond measure is absolutely correct. And between now and the election in November 8th, we have to set up an independent committee that raises private resources to advocate for the passage of the bond measure. That is separate and distinct from the Citizens Oversight Committee that is legally required for any Proposition 39 bond measure in California and is specifically called for in our bond resolutions. And that is the committee that has to be formed within 60 days of the certification of the election. And I think maybe for that piece, it would be worth allowing Meredith to talk about the legal parameters for establishing that committee. That committee's job is to look backwards at the use of funds expended through the bond measure. And there's kind of a specific process for how that committee is appointed.
Thanks, Charles. I apologize. Director Flores, I did hear you use the word oversight, but I wasn't sure if you were referring to the Oversight Committee or the Campaign Committee. So Superintendent Chanel didn't.
Oversight Committee. I
Okay.
didn't read anything about a campaign committee on the papers that you submitted here. It was only oversight. So, but you did mention the campaign committee last time, but I couldn't find anything in our board packet about the campaign committee. But I know they're different.
Okay,
Hey,
great.
folks.
So,
On this side of the room, it's really hard to hear unless you're speaking slowly and right into your microphone very clearly. So if everybody could just do that, we're having a really hard time hearing on this side.
okay, I'll speak up. So when a school district passes a general obligation bond measure with a 55% voter approval threshold, which is what we're asking tonight, there is a requirement that the school district provide an oversight committee, a citizens bond oversight committee. And that oversight committee's responsibility is to ensure that the district is spending the proceeds of its bonds in the manner that it told the voters that it would spend them. And specifically that the bond proceeds are spent for projects on the project list that I pointed out to you in Exhibit A of the resolution. So that project list that's actually printed in the sample ballot that voters will receive, the Oversight Committee will refer directly to that project list when it reviews the district's expenditures. So was every expenditure on that project list? So the requirement sets in, the committee must be established within 60 days of the district certifying the election results. So the election takes place the first week in November. Typically, the county needs about 30 days to certify all the results, and then they'll send to you their version of the certified election results, and that's the county's version. This board then will, during one of its meetings, certify the election for themselves. And once the board takes that action and certifies the election, that's when the 60-day clock sets in. So this isn't an obligation that will apply until after the election, and then probably at least 30 days after the election. So we have a little bit of time before we have to think about putting that together, but it will be my responsibility to work with Anna and her staff to make sure that that happens.
Thanks for the clarification. That makes complete sense, actually. Thank you.
All right, Trustee McCormick.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve E1, approval of resolution calling for an election authorizing the issuance of a general obligation bonds of the elementary district to be held November 8th, 2022.
Second.
All right, so it's been moved by Trustee McCormick, seconded by Trustee Flores. We are ready for a vote. This is a big deal, you guys. This is a really big deal.
Director Bowie.
Aye.
Director McCormick.
Aye.
Director Flores.
Aye.
Director Manieri.
Aye.
Director De La Cruz.
Aye.
Director Fong.
Aye.
Director Medina.
Aye.
President Sheffield.
Aye. All right, motion passes. All right, sit tight, everyone. There's a second part. We're moving on to agenda item E2. And the board will consider a resolution to place a general obligation bond measure on the November 8th, 2022 ballot with the high school district, which would authorize the issuance of $398 million of general obligation bonds. turn it back over to you, Superintendent Trunell.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay? Okay. So, and I want to thank Meredith and Charles for being partners with us and helping us to understand the nuances and intricacies of this process. Much like E1, E2 is a focus on the high school district by the issuance of the bond. I'm going to just read this. The bond measure will permit the high school district to issue $398 million in general obligation bonds, the proceeds of which can be used to improve high school facilities. And with that, President Sheffield, we do ask the board to consider approval of our second resolution tonight, Resolution 2022-23-14 for the high school district bond.
Thank you. All right, again, board, this is an action item. Do we have questions from the board? No, we had a lot of questions at the first part of this. I'm wondering if we have any follow-up questions. All right, we will go to the public. I do not have blue cards from members of the attending audience. Do we have members of the virtual audience?
There are members of the public attending the meeting virtually, and you would like to comment on item E2, the resolution calling for an election authorizing the issuance of a general obligation bond for the high school district. Please raise your hand at this time. Our first speaker is Rob Jewell. Rob, if you could please speak very loud. You have a 2-minute time limit. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Kelly Jewell. I am born and raised Santa Rosa, attended city schools, so did my children. And again, like my husband, I'm very concerned about increasing our taxes. It just appears to me that things aren't being done, just like was mentioned. It's kind of appalling that we're sitting around saying, oh, there's mold and there's these problems and that problems. I'm a little concerned that things weren't taken care of. I guess I could say, well, I don't have money to pay for my improvements of my house, so I'll let them go. And then I'll ask somebody else to do my improvements for me. I'm very concerned that, you know, when there's noticeable mold in the classroom, that can't be taken care of. So to me, that's a red flag that funds are not appropriately being spent on our school systems. So I'm very concerned that we're just being taxed and taxed and taxed. And, you know, home prices are just one part of the issue in Sonoma County. Our taxes are outrageous. So I just hope that, you know, I know that you're going to pass this bond. I just hope that Santa Rosa citizens are tired of being taxed without any results. So I hope the people think long and hard before they keep doing bonds. Anyway, thank you very much. I do appreciate you being there. Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you, Kelly. Our next speaker is Amy Ziegler. Amy, if you could please speak loud and clear. Thank you.
Hello, board members. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. So I too was concerned, especially with, you know, more taxation. Unfortunately, I know that the schools are in quite a deficit of attendance, number one, due to the regulations and all of the mandates that have been coming down, you know, regarding COVID, and plus the exodus of people leaving California for those reasons also. So definitely it is a little bit of a concern. And it was also very interesting that the board would say this was a very big deal. And so I suppose I would like clarification on that. I also do feel for any district or any business that is dealing with any kind, excuse me, of need for maintenance services, because that is also something that has been hugely impacted with lockdowns, with an exodus of people out of the state. So I understand that that has to be addressed. I'm not quite sure how you can address it due to the labor force completely tanking. And trades as well. So I know that you guys are in a very precarious situation. I don't know that taxing is the way to go about fixing this, only because there's nobody for you to pay with this bond money. So maybe take that into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. President Sheffield, I don't see any other hands raised at this time.
All right, thank you. And let's bring it back to the board for further questions, discussion, and a vote. Questions? Yes, we have Trustee Fong and then Trustee Flores.
So this is not a question. This is really to our public, our constituents, our stakeholders, our staff about this bond. President Sheffield said it is a big deal, and we do not take this lightly. We have heard clearly the complaints over the past several years about challenging how we use the last bond money. And knowing the trajectory of the bond money and knowing the needs of our schools, I'm satisfied that we took care of what we had to take care of. It's not what we thought we wanted, right? But it's what we needed to do. Given the way we are taxed in our state for education, there literally is no money, very little money, and it's really grant-based to go fix your schools. So we're not getting it from the governor, we're not getting from the legislature. The only way we're going to fix our schools really for what we want is to tax ourselves. We have to tax ourselves, and it's going to hurt. It's going to hurt all of us who own mortgages, pay rent, everybody. But that's what it takes to be invested in our children, in our community. And whether you have children or not, whether your children are grown or not yet born, that is an investment in our future as a community. So I'm going to work very hard as a volunteer after hours to get this passed. We have to answer the questions that are being raised. They're all legitimate. They deserve answers. They might not get the answers they want, but I think people are satisfied when they do get answers. So I'd like to make a motion to pass this one.
Second.
All right, we did have a question from, or a comment from Trustee Flores.
Thank you, Trustee Fong, for saying that. I mean, you took a lot of the words out of my mouth. I think this is a communal sort of issue that we have to address, and we have to address it swiftly, and we have to address it mindfully, and we have to address it, to make sure that our future generations are helped. To those folks who are thinking, there might have been some mismanagement, I highly encourage you to be part of the Oversight Committee. I mean, if you think that there was anything happening behind closed doors, I highly encourage you to do that. I mean, this is the opportunity for you to step up and make sure that their funds are being used in the way that they were meant to be used. If not, you'll find out as to why certain funds were used in other ways. But I highly encourage those folks to make sure that they step up and be part of that Oversight Committee. And I think you can reach out to our superintendent if you'd like to be part of that.
All right, thank you. We had a motion on the floor from Trustee Fong, seconded by Trustee McCormick. We did public comment. Okay, so that's all right. We are, keep me on my toes though. We are ready for a vote.
Director Bowie.
Aye.
Director Fong.
Aye.
Director McCormick.
Aye.
Director Manieri.
Aye.
Director De La Cruz.
Aye.
Director Flores.
Aye.
Director Medina.
Aye.
President Fong. President Sheffield.
All right.
Sorry.
Aye. Okay. We have facilities that are 40, 50, 60, 70 years old, and they do require maintenance. I am pleased that we're going in this direction. It's a mad scramble to November. I want to thank Meredith, Charles, Eric for being here tonight. And with the adoption of these resolutions, the issuance of school bonds, let's quickly put out a press release and make information available on the district website. And of course, alert our families. And I see Trustee Fong waving to get my attention. Yes.
All right, so I can't help myself. You know, if we are complaining about the taxes that school districts are assessing on our properties, and you know, we can because we're looking at our taxes. Yes, absolutely it hurts. But look, have you ever walked into a bank or law office or a business office that doesn't look great, doesn't have great furniture, doesn't have great air conditioning, doesn't have nice pads of paper and pencils and everything for people, right? And you are paying that tax in the terms of prices. And so when we are providing free public education, somebody's got to pay for it. Nothing's free. So I am obviously passionate about providing for our children and our staffs who work there. Our schools need to be places of joy and beauty, environmentally sound places, and that's where we want to go.
Sing it, sister. All right. Well, thank you again. I'm pleased. We have passed these bonds. It'll be moving forward to put this on the ballot in November. Please, 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 folks in the community, reach out to us. We need your help. Thank you. With that, we're going to move on to agenda item E3. The board will consider approval of the 2022-23 45-day budget update that includes revisions in revenue and expenditures as a result of the 22-23 State Budget Act signed into law on June 27, 2022. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Executive Director Dantos for a presentation. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, President Sheffield, Superintendent Turnell, members of the board. Here we are at the 45-day budget update. I'm going to share my screen. And I'm going to Where's Okay, so tonight I'll be going over a brief overview of the 45-day budget update. I'll go over the major revenue and expenditures as a result of the 45-day budget update, some areas to monitor, and go over the next steps. So on June 22nd, 2022, our Santa Rosa City Schools adopted our budget for this current 2022-23 fiscal year. As a state agency, our budget is based on the overall state of California's budget, which is based on tax revenues. And the state of California, as President Sheffield mentioned, voted their budget into law on June 27th, which was after our adopted budget of June 22nd. For our adopted budget on June 22nd, we used the state process for preparing state agencies for their budget, which in the January before that fiscal year, the governor comes out with a budget proposal for that next fiscal year. And then in May, the governor, after showing his budget to the legislature and other stakeholders, he provides a revision to his budget proposal in May, and that is what we use the assumptions for our budget adoption that we made in June for that budget. We use those May revision assumptions. So then, according to law, 45 days after the governor signs the budget into the Budget Act into law, we've got to present a 45-day update to our budget. So that 45 days after the June 27th date is August 11th. So I'm here presenting tonight on the major revenue and expenditure revisions that'll now need to be made to our budget based on the governor's signing of the, or the legislature and the governor's signing of the budget into law. So our single largest area of revenues is our state LCFF, local control funding formula. That is increased annually from the prior year based on the cost of living adjustment. The cost of living adjustment with the May revise was 6.56%. It continues to be 6.56% with the adopted budget. However, at our adopted budget, based on strong information from the May revise and out of the legislature and governor, we used a augmentation or an increase to the LCFF of 3.29%. So a total of about 9.85%. With the adopted budget, we are looking at an actual increase of 6.28% for 12 point, let me see here actually. Yeah, 6.28 for 6.28%. So 12.84% up from that 9.85%, which is very good news for Santa Rosa City Schools. That is ongoing revenue that we'll see come in. And on the next slide, I'll show the financial impact that we'll receive. But I'm just going to go over the updates in the LCFF, because our LCFF funding continues to provide, with the governor's signing of the budget, the TK add-on. We get about $2,813 per TK ADA that we record for those kids, and that'll help fund the increased staffing needs for those kids. So we'll have a 12-to-1 staffing ratios. Then the budget continues to provide in 2022-23 pandemic-driven attendance declines through offering a 3-year rolling average prior year history, which gives us a year of pre-pandemic ADA to include in our hold harmless, if that's greater than current year, because we're LCFF funded on current or greater year. But now it won't only be greater year; it'll be greater the current year, greater year, or greater of the three prior years. That'll be for 2022-23 and moving through this MYP. However, if you recall, in the May revision, there was very little support for our prior year that we just got out of 21-22. There was little support for any pandemic-driven related ADA decline for that year. So there is that did make it into the budget that was signed into law. So we are able to use that prior year. We're able to use the 2019-20 ADA. Oh yeah, that is distracting me very much so. I apologize. Yeah, thank you. We are able to use the 2019-20 yield ADA for 2021-22. So that is very beneficial to our Santa Rosa City Schools. So here we go. What does that equal? As a result, for Santa Rosa City Schools, in our general fund, we will see a $16.9 million increase over our multi-year projection. That's about $6.5 million in current year, and then 5.8 in the future year, and 4.6 in the third year. And you can see our charter schools have a similar increasing trend in the LCFF revenues. So now that seems like a large number, and it is, and it's ongoing, but other items in the state budget were one-time funding. So I'm just gonna jump ahead to one of the one-time funding that was included in the May revise. It was that big one-time discretionary money, that without no deadline for use, and it was discretionary, and it was about 17.9 million. So that was not included in the budget. So we have an increase of about 17 million in the LCFF funding, and we have a decrease of this one-time discretion. However, now let me go into the other areas that were included in the budget. And if there's any questions, I'll clear that up, but let me just go through. So we had increase of LCFF, but that's not pure new revenue because we had that one-time money. But then the budget does have a learning recovery emergency block grant, which adds another $5 million of revenue for us. And that is for pandemic related recovery. It is to stabilize instructional learning time. It could decrease or stabilize pupil to staff ratios. So stabilizing pupil to staff ratios, that financially is beneficial for us. Another one-time grant that was included in the budget is an arts, music, and instructional materials discretionary block grant. That can be used for instructional materials, collections, to offset increased operational costs in the related to the pandemic. So this is beneficial revenue for us that's now in about $1.8 million. And let me go back. So just to be clear, that's for the Learning Recovery Emergency Block Grant. That's about $9 million in the high school district, and about a little over $9 million in the high school district, and $4 million in the elementary school district. And the arts and music is about $6 million in the high school district and $1.8 million in the elementary district. So then, and this is the 17 million that was not included. So just a real quick summary. Oh, and then let me finish. There is the, this budget continues to, with the Expanded Learning Opportunities Program, which will increase the instructional day to 9 hours for unduplicated pupil counts. We have to offer them 9 hours, and then as well as 36 weeks of non-school days instruction. And for audited purposes, this won't go into auditing till 2023-24, but it's available for spending this current year. This was another thing that was positive out of the signed budget. They're increasing our revenue for home to school transportation. Before this budget act, we got about 400,000 for LCFF funding. Now we're getting an increase of about $1.7 million per year. So that'll help out by about $5 million over our 3-year multi-year projection. So that is the revenues that are included in the 45-day budget update. Positive news, there are some of those funds have some categories that we have to fall in line with spending. So those are the major expenditure updates. One thing we did get with the LCFF revenue coming in, we'll need to kind of get some LCAP work done with a little bit extra supplemental concentration grant money, and then we'll have to categorize our spending in line with those grant programs. So areas to monitor, again, with True Financial, we're going to close current year books in September. We're going to see actual student enrollment in the fall, final staffing. We are in employee negotiations, see how the California economy continues, see how our enrollment goes. So next steps, again, close out the books in September. Every year in September, we kind of ramp up the Budget Advisory Committee. In November, if we have to have solutions, we'll bring it to the board. And then we are looking forward to the 2022-23 first interim financial report in December. And with that, I'll take any questions that anybody might have.
Great, positive news. Thank you so much, Joel. I'm going to bring it to the board for questions. Yes, we have Trustee Manieri and then Trustee De La Cruz.
I have a few questions, and it one of them might have been answered here in this slide right here. One of my questions is, do we need to produce expenditure plans for the block grants? And if so, by when? Like, do we have to submit those plans?
Yeah,
to
so we
receive
will
those
have to
funds?
report. So for the learning recovery block grant, we will have to report expenditures to the CDE just to make sure that, so like, that's common with like the core curriculum block grant. We just have to report and then they monitor to make sure they fit within those categories. We report our ESSER funds, so that's pretty common, yeah.
Got it, but they don't require us to like submit to them a plan.
So I
Ahead
didn't
of
see
time.
that. That's what you're looking at? Yeah, I
Yeah.
looked early through that. I'll follow up. They did say in the materials that came out that we get from associations and SCO and things that we will be required to report expenditures to CDE. I didn't specifically see about a plan for that learning
Yeah.
recovery. I know that the governor wanted it to be really discretionary. Legislature wanted more strings. I think they came out with what they did. And
Sure. Yeah, I kind of appreciate that. But I think for like internal controls, it would be really, it'd be a good idea to maybe have some sort of plan that we can keep ourselves accountable to, that the community can also understand how we're spending these funds. So even if it's not a requirement, I really would like to see that. And then I guess that is a point of clarification for this November 2022, when the BAC or the superintendent makes recommendations to the board. Are these recommendations for how to spend the funds?
they are recommendations in line with the grants. Yeah.
Okay.
So
awesome.
they're fairly clearly, I mean, there is some discretion, but you have to be within those. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just thinking about like timeline and when community can also give input in the expenditure of these one-time funds. I think it's really important that we all kind of understand what it means to have one-time funds and how they can be spent. And I think it would be really great to have a plan in alignment with what our community is saying we need and what the priorities of the board are. That's it. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Trustee Manieri and Trustee De La Cruz.
Thanks. I have kind of similar questions to Trustee Manieri's in that I'm just wondering how we are going to set priorities outside of the Budget Advisory Committee. So recognizing that that's a really important body for us to hear from. We've also heard a lot from parents and from students and from teachers around class sizes, recognizing how hard it is to teach, especially to address the massive learning loss that our kids are experiencing. I'm wondering, what if any planning is related to looking at the reduction of class sizes, looking at the reduction of combo classes. My kid's a 6th grader in a combo class, and I know her teachers are going to do the absolute hardest to make sure that she's getting a 6th grade curriculum and being held to rigorous standards, but that's exceedingly hard to do in a combo class. And so I just have a lot of concerns around that kind of combination of combo classes and very high class sizes. I'm just wondering, how that plays into figuring out what we do with this money.
Yeah, so when we do look at that Learning Recovery Emergency Block Grant, one of the allowable uses is to decrease staff to pupil ratios. And so the high school district is getting about 9.6 million and the elementary school is getting about 4.6 million. So we could look at that avenue, that funding source as a solution to that.
Some of these areas too are areas of negotiation. So we will have to take those into consideration as well on any movement or change in that.
You have further questions, Trustee De La
Yeah, I
Cruz?
mean, I guess I'm just curious about the intersection between, these as labor issues and how we're actually sourcing and prioritizing what we need to then go to negotiate. And I think, just hearing from some labor partners around their concerns with class sizes and combo classes is a really good sign that in many ways we feel aligned with our labor partners on this particular issue. that parents are also have been very vocal about, the combination of class sizes and combo classes that is, so concerning. So, I guess the question is, to the extent, could you map out the space between having to negotiate some of these changes and what the process is to even kind of reach them?
We can bring some of that information back to share with the board. The one thing that I just want to raise is that there's a ripple effect to everything. So if we reduce class sizes, yes, we retain more staff. We still have the issue of declining enrollment and a budget where we may have to make cuts. And so how does that ripple effect back to having being very heavy with staff with a declining number of students? So I think there's a balance that we need to take into consideration in all of the requests, and we'd be happy to bring back some information around that.
And further questions? My tongue is tied. Trustee De La Cruz?
I'm good. Thanks.
Okay. Other questions from the board? This is an action item, so we'll go to questions first. All right, seeing none, we will open it up to the public for public comment. No in-house comments. We'll open it up to our folks joining us online.
If there's any members of the audience who are joining us on Zoom and would like to make a comment on item E3, approval of the 2022-23 45-day budget update, please raise your virtual hand at this time. There are no hands raised.
All right, we will bring it back to the board for further questions, discussion, and a vote. We have, Trustee McCormick.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the approval of the 2022-23 45-day budget update.
Second.
All right, it was moved by Trustee McCormick, seconded by Trustee Manieri. We are ready for a vote.
Director Bowie,
Aye.
Director McCormick,
Aye.
Director Manieri,
Aye.
Director De La Cruz,
Aye.
Director Fong,
Aye.
Director Flores,
Aye.
Director Medina,
Aye.
President Sheffield.
Aye, motion passes. Okay, we are looking forward to further discussion on the use of these funds. Thank you, Mr. Dantos. We are moving on to agenda item E4. This is an action item. The board will consider approval of the MOU that was reached with Santa Rosa City Schools, the Santa Rosa Teacher Association collective bargaining representatives on August 3rd regarding safe return to school guidelines and issues related to the COVID-19 pandemic. I am going to turn it over to Assistant Superintendent Shepard, who will be presenting this item to us. Mr. Shepard.
Thank you, President Sheffield, members of the board, Superintendent Trinnell, members of the community. I have the pleasure tonight to present to you this MOU that we reached agreement on. I'm going to pull up my screen here. And this item is similar to last year, but pared down because our situation is quite a bit different than last year. But we have guidelines that we are going to be following, CDPH and the CDE. Very similar. President Howell did a great job of kind of summarizing. We're going to continue to provide masks, ventilation, hand hygiene. We're going to clean classrooms regularly and as needed for COVID protocol situations. We are also going to compensate teachers up to a couple of hours per month because we know that as students may have to quarantine, there is a recognizing that that is an increased workload to provide makeup work that is more often than during the normal course of events. So with that, I will entertain any questions that you have.
All right, board member questions?
Yeah, I have a question.
Yes, Trustee Flores.
I remember that we had a large expenditure for ionizer air purifiers. And we spent quite a bit of COVID money for that. I don't see any of that in here. Whatever happened to that?
We still have the classroom air purifiers are still.
The ionizer ones,
Correct.
right?
Correct. Those are still in use and I know we've never removed them from classrooms. So whatever has been requested are still functioning and in classrooms.
So
May I add? And we're
So-
also purchasing more for those that might be in need of replacement.
okay, so
And also Director Flores, per the MOU, the filters will be changed by September 30th for those that are in need.
right, no, I see that. So that's what that's referring to then.
Correct. Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Other questions from the board? Yes, we have trustee De La Cruz.
One of the things that plagued many sites last year was the lack of ability to eat outside safely under cover, to do the most basic of COVID mitigation efforts, to have kids eat outside. I'm wondering if there's anything in this MOU that has added to additional materials or any further agreements with our labor partners around changing kind of some of those, what we earlier identified as cultural issues around allowing elementary students to eat outside.
So I'll take that question. So for the purpose of the MOU, this is referring to the direction that would be the guideline for our members of the SRTA membership. Lunchtime is not a designated work time for them, and so it is not covered in this MOU. We are taking care of that outside of this MOU. We do have purchased tents for every school, should they want them. Some schools have natural cover, and so they aren't partaking in the tents, but for the purposes of this MOU, it is related to the membership and the guidelines within to support them.
Is this something we can do maybe at our next board meeting, the superintendent update? We can give sort of an update on where we are. It probably is already. I know it's in the works, so.
Yes, we plan to bring forward to the next meeting our COVID updates, which will include all of that.
Great. All right, other questions from board members?
I just have one more question around, I understand that this is an MOU just with our kind of labor partner here. It sounds like, around masks, that KN95s will be provided to bargaining unit members. Is there any need for language in here around KN95s for kids in our district? Or would that be addressed in the COVID update? Because it says the surgical grade masks to all individuals who request them on campus. Is that referring to students?
So technically speaking, anyone, however, through the lens of this MOU, we are only referring to SRTA members, and what we will be supporting them with, our COVID plan includes students.
Excellent. Thank you so much for that clarification.
Other board members, questions? All right, let's go to public comment. I do not have blue cards in-house for comments. We can open up to our viewers online.
If there are members in the audience attending on Zoom and you would like to make a comment on item E4, approval of the MOU reached with Santa Rosa City Schools and Santa Rosa Teachers Association regarding safe return to school, please raise your hand at this time. There are no hands raised.
Thank you. Bring it back to the board. This is an action item. Further questions, discussion, or motion? We have trustee McCormick.
I'd like to make a motion on the approval of a memorandum of understanding reached with Santa Rosa City Schools and Santa Rosa Teachers Association regarding safe return to school guidelines.
All right, it was moved by trustee McCormick, seconded by trustee Manieri. We are ready for a vote.
Director Bowie,
Aye.
Director McCormick,
Aye.
Director Manieri,
Aye.
Director De La Cruz,
Aye.
Director Fong,
Aye.
Director Flores,
Aye.
Director Medina,
Aye.
President Sheffield.
Aye. All right, motion passes. Okay, sit tight, Mr. Shepherd. We have you for the long haul tonight. We are moving on to agenda item E5, an action item. The board will consider approval of a resubmitted provisional internship application, or PIP, for Sarah Kanga Livingston as an action item. We have a few of these preliminary internship permits on tonight's agenda, and it's my understanding that per the Commission on Teacher Credentialing Guidelines, they must be presented as action items to the board.
That is correct,
So
President
we have a list
Sheffield.
of them. I'm going to turn it over to you, and let's take each agenda item one by one.
Yes, President Sheffield, members of the board, Superintendent Turnell. These went to the meeting last for under consent, which we have done for numerous years. However, SCO caught it and reminded us that in fact, these have to come on action. So items 5 through 10 are all the same with different folks, of course. And so for that, this is a normally routine item that will now come on action.
Any questions from the board?
Just one. I noticed that these are hard to fill positions, and I noticed a couple of things. One, that now there's a counselor in here too, because it seems like that's a hard to fill position. And then two, none of these had, I know they say that they're going to complete their core academics up to carry and enroll in an intern program, but it doesn't talk specifically as to where they're going to enroll. USF, USC, Sonoma State. I looked for that and I couldn't find anything.
Yeah, all of the above. We have partnerships with several universities. And the universities, in fact, that you named are the ones that we mainly partner with. And so they have to be enrolled in a program to qualify for the provisional intern permit.
Okay, so
And-
having said that, I don't recall seeing the MOUs between those institutions, because I've seen it in other board meetings in other school districts. Have those been approved through a consent item also? And if so, do they also have to be, an action item?
The MOUs themselves with the universities are standard, pretty much standard boilerplate that are on consent traditionally. And most of those are multi-year, so we would not be bringing them back with, obviously, except for a year in which it needed to be renewed.
Okay. All right, thank you.
And Mr. Shepherd, what were the, or Mr. Flores, what were the universities, the schools we want to make sure we want to take?
So typically we have USF, USC, Laverne, Sonoma State, and Dominican, and what's the one, the East Bay? Forget, there's one more in the East Bay.
CSU, CSU.
Could be Chico State, could be Humboldt.
Well,
various-
Chico, right, Chico, Humboldt, right,
Right.
and there's one more in the East Bay. I'll remember later. But those are usually the schools that we partner with.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Oh, and UC Berkeley for school psychologists.
Other questions? All right, this is an action item. We will go to the public for public comment. No in-house cards. If we have folks joining us online.
There are members of the public who are joining us on Zoom and would like to comment on item E5, approval of resubmittal provision internship permit application for Sarah Kanga Livingstone. Please raise your hand. There are no hands raised.
Thank you. All right, back to the board for further questions, discussion, or motion. We have trustee McCormick.
I'd like to move the approval of resubmitted provisional internship permit application for Sarah Kinga Livingstone.
Second.
Moved by trustee McCormick, seconded by trustee Manieri. We are ready for a vote. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't even look up that time. Trustee De La Cruz, we are ready for a vote.
Director Bowie,
Aye.
Director McCormick,
Aye.
Director De La Cruz,
Aye.
Director Manieri,
Aye.
Director Fong,
Aye.
Director Flores,
Aye.
Director Medina,
Aye.
President Sheffield.
Aye, motion passes. We will move on to agenda item E6. The board will consider approval of a resubmitted provisional internship application for Shelby Raffy. Oh, yes.
I have a question. I'm wondering how we're tracking the number of folks on our campuses who are working towards a credential, but who are not credentialed yet with an equity lens. So I noticed that the majority of people, or all of the people who are considering tonight, are in some of our schools that tend to be higher students of color, schools that are not equitably performing in comparison to some of the schools that might look different. And so I'm just wondering how, as an institution, we're tracking kind of, expertise and experience and credentialed teachers site to site and district wide.
Question.
So Director De La Cruz, we do track that in our annual CalPads that we submit. And yes, we do watch that. We understand that that can be a big challenge.
I'd like to add to that as well. I think there's multiple things that happen when we're looking for hiring new positions, and also having individuals who have the will and also need the certification. Some of these positions are positions that are open at some of our more vulnerable schools, our schools that have higher needs. And we certainly offer opportunities for some of our other educators to partake in the transfer process if they would like to move to another school. We cannot force a teacher to do that per se, unless we utilize our strength of the involuntary transfer process, which forces teachers away from schools that they have perhaps had relationships with for a long time. So it's a very delicate process, but I hear exactly what you're saying. And we will make sure when we go back through and in future processes with this, that we are paying doubly attention to that.
I'm just curious too, if there are ways in which, we can really think creatively about, again, resourcing equitably where there is higher need, with teachers and staff who are able to meet that need, whether it be incentives or recognition of the importance of, making sure that folks who are in the process of being trained, aren't necessarily needing to do that in a place where, the schools where they're doing that is in a place where we actually need greater resources, more expertise, and more experience. So just in the future, as we're thinking about negotiating some of these incentives and these ways in which we as a district are ensuring equity in distribution of our expertise and our skill sets in ways that reflect our values.
Thank you, Trustee De La Cruz. Trustee Flores.
I know we have quite a few of these, but these apply to all of them.
Yeah.
So what sort of systems of support do we have in place to make sure these folks, feel supported so they can stay after they finish their internship program, right? Because it seems like this is an ongoing issue. I'm reading through the permits, right? And it's very standard what I see in here. I'm not seeing other part of a BITA program, but I also don't see that we have a systemic sort of way to make sure that these folks feel supported, not just by the site, but, by the community, and to make sure that, burnout doesn't happen at the early stages of the educational field, and to make sure that they come back and build this relationship with our students.
So these teachers who have these provisional that are interns are assigned a mentor teacher in the district. Oftentimes it's a teacher at the site, almost always a teacher at the site, and who is assigned to work with that teacher and through their university professor, a three-way partnership to shore up skills. And a teacher can't, an intern can't just become an intern. They have to be recommended by the university. So the university has deemed that this person is quote unquote ready to be a teacher with support. And so we come alongside and we offer that support. And then once they've passed their internship and received their preliminary credential, then they have an additional 2 years of teacher induction through SCO. So it's actually they have a 3 years of support, whereas some teachers may, starting right out of the gate as a probe 1, may only have just 2 years.
Then this is something that I personally think we should maybe start thinking about implementing district-wide. The induction program, it's very one-sided. I believe that our provisionary teachers or intern teachers, mainly the extra scaffolding, the extra support within those 2 years to make sure that, they stay in the district. We lose a lot of our first, second years teachers, to other districts, or when, the site supervisor seems that they don't have the competency level, right? And if we have teachers that are leaving because lack of competency, I would love to see a systemic sort of way to make sure that there is a systems of check and balances to make sure new teachers are being, provided the support, not just through the induction or BITSA program, but through the site administrator to make sure that we retain those teachers. Because we're not in a place where we can just, let go of our, educators. I think we want to invest in those early programs to make sure that we retain those folks within our district. Just my 2 cents.
All right.
Thank you.
Well, we are on agenda item E6 for those following along, the PIP for Shelby Raffi. And we're going to open up for public comment. No blue cards. We'll go to members of the public joining us online if they would like to speak to this agenda item.
There are members of the public who would like to comment on E6, approval of the resubmitted provisional internship permit application for Shelby Raffi. Please raise your hand. There are no hands raised.
Back to the board for further questions, discussion, and motion. We have Trustee McCormick.
I'd like to move the approval of E6, a resubmitted provisional internship permit application for Shelby Raffi.
Second.
All right, moved by Trustee McCormick, seconded by Trustee Medina. We are ready for a vote.
Director Bowie,
Aye.
Director McCormick,
Aye.
Director Medina,
Aye.
Director Manieri,
Aye.
Director De La Cruz,
Aye.
Director Fong,
Aye.
Director Flores,
Aye.
President Sheffield.
Aye, motion passes. Moving on to agenda item E7, the board will consider approval of a resubmitted provisional internship application for Brett Kovacs as an action item. And over to you, Superintendent Shepherd. Same old, same old story.
Ditto. Yes, this is a similar action item for another provisional intern permit holder.
All right, as we go through the motions, do we have questions from the board?
I'd like to make a
Team.
motion to pass this, and we thank this person for joining our team.
Second.
Okay, we'll take the motion and the second, but we will go to public comment for folks joining us online.
There are members of the public who would like to comment on E7, approval of resubmitted provisional internship permit application for Brett Kovac. Please raise your hand. There are no hands raised.
Thank you. All right, now we have a motion on the table from Trustee Fong, seconded by Trustee Flores. We are ready for a vote.
Director Bowie,
Aye.
Director Fong.
Aye.
Director Flores,
Aye.
Director Manieri,
Aye.
Director De La Cruz,
Aye.
Director McCormick,
Aye.
Director Medina,
Aye.
President Sheffield.
Aye, motion passes. Agenda item F8, the board will consider approval of a resolution, a resubmitted provisional internship application for Christina Clowen-Birch. I butchered that, Clowen-Birch. Do we have questions from the board? Seeing none, open it up to the public for public comment. Members joining us online?
There are members of the public who are joining us on line, please raise your hand if you'd like to comment on the approval of the resubmitted provisional internship permit application for Christina Clowen-Birch. There are no hands raised.
Okay, we are bringing it back to the board for further questions, discussion, or motion.
I move to approve.
Second.
Moved by trustee Flores, seconded by trustee McCormick. We are ready for a vote.
Director Bowie,
Aye.
Director Flores,
Aye.
Director McCormick,
Aye.
Director Manieri,
Aye.
Director De La Cruz.
Aye.
Director Fong,
Aye.
Director Medina,
Aye.
President Sheffield.
Aye, the motion passes. Okay, and we are moving on to agenda item E9. The board will consider approval of a resubmitted provisional internship application for Colleen McGill as an action item. Questions from the board? Public comment for those joining us online.
There are members of the public who would like to comment on item E9, approval of resubmitted professional internship permit application for Colleen McGill. Please raise your hand. There are no hands raised.
Back to the board for
Make a
further
motion
questions.
to
Make a
approve.
motion.
For Colleen.
I heard some voice.
Second.
All right, we had motion from trustee Fong, seconded from trustee Flores. We are ready for a vote.
Director Bowie,
Aye.
Director Fong,
Aye.
Director Flores,
Aye.
Director Manieri,
Aye.
Director De La Cruz.
Aye.
Director McCormick,
Aye.
Director Medina,
Aye.
President Sheffield.
Aye, and the motion passes. All right, that is it with
No, one
the,
more.
well, that's it for the PIP. Now we're moving on. The board will consider approving the resolution of a variable team waiver requested for a pupil personnel service PPS school counseling credential for Bridget Marie Letty Joy. Any questions from the board? All right, members of the public joining us virtually.
Members of the public who would like to comment on item E10, approval of resubmission of a variable term waiver request for secondary counselor credential for Bridget Marie Letty Joy, please raise your hand. There are no hands raised.
All right, back to the board. Entertain a motion.
I do have a question.
No question.
I'm reading the application. I don't see that it's fully filled out, and I'm just wondering why she needs it to be a counselor.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that? I didn't hear you.
So Miss Letty was already a teacher. Is this a credentials waiver so she could be a counselor?
Correct, yes, she's pursuing her credential in school counseling.
She's a very good teacher, by the way. I move to approve.
All right, moved by trustee Fong, seconded by trustee Flores. We are ready for a vote.
Director Bowie,
Aye.
Director Fong,
Aye.
Director Flores,
Aye.
Director Manieri,
Aye.
Director De La Cruz,
Aye.
Director McCormick,
Aye.
Director Medina,
Aye.
President Sheffield.
Aye, the motion passes. All right, thank you,
President
Assistant
Sheffield, may I make a
Superintendent
comment?
Shepherd. Yes, I'm getting there. I'm getting there. Again, I just want to thank you. We had to go through the formalities of this. We were corrected by SCO, my understanding, but now we have done it correctly. Yes, trustee Fong.
Thank you. Yes, I understand. I want to thank our individuals who are doing this, because not only is it tough to be in the classroom or in the counseling office, but without a full credential and a full student teaching experience before this happens, they are really getting themselves into a really demanding situation. So for them to want to do this speaks volumes to them, and it also speaks volumes to us and how we support our newest teachers. So thank you
trustee
to
Fong.
our staff.
Thank you. All right, we are going to end our action items on E11, public board meeting via teleconference per AB 361. We've seen this item many times before. Superintendent Turnell, take it away.
Thank you. And so with that, Board President Sheffield, members of the board, everyone in person and online, just bringing this continued item forward to give the board consideration of continuing the opportunity for a hybrid model allowed under Assembly Bill AB 361, of which the board would need to take action technically every 30 days. As you can see, cadence-wise, I continue to bring this forward every meeting in the event that it is necessary and we have a skipping of a meeting due to cancellation or so forth. So with that, I
Cautions.
hand it back to you.
Thank you. All right, board, this is an action item. Do we have questions?
And
Questions? Public comment from folks joining us online?
If there are members of the public who would like to comment on item E11, public board meetings via teleconference per AB 361, please raise your hand at this time. There are no hands raised.
Seeing
like-
none, bringing it back to the board, we have we have way down Medina.
I'd like to move to continue conducting public meetings virtually, including the use of hybrid model as allowed in Assembly Bill 361.
Second.
All right, motion was from trustee Medina, seconded from trustee Manieri. We are ready for a vote. And trustee Fong, you have something to add?
I'd like to just comment that it's really important that we continue to do hybrid. As I've talked to many LEAs across the state, not many of them do this anymore. They make everyone come in person. They make everyone come in person who want to speak. There's no more Zoom. And I think it really, what we do allows more people to be with us and participate. So I'm very proud that we do this and I'd like to continue. So yes.
Yeah, I agree. I've heard from a lot of parents who are, now that we're starting the school year again, how accessible it was for them to engage, to be involved, to be able to tune in at home as they're putting their little ones to bed. So yeah, thank you. Appreciate you for bringing that up. All right. Public comment? Did we do? I'm lost. We did public comment. All right, we are ready for a vote.
Director Bowie,
Aye.
Director Medina,
Aye.
Director Manieri,
Aye.
Director De La Cruz,
aye.
Director Fong,
Aye.
Director McCormick,
Aye.
Director Flores,
Aye.
President Sheffield.
Aye, motion passes. All right. We are moving on to our F items, our consent items. You know what? I'm going to take a little privilege of the chair. Anybody in-house who would like to speak, have us poll any of these F consent items? All right, just a test. That was just a test balloon. All right, seeking a motion, we have trustee McCormick.
Move to approve F2 through 9.
Second.
Move to approve F2 through F9. Motion was from trustee McCormick, seconded from trustee Fong. We're ready for a vote.
Director Bowie,
Aye.
Director McCormick,
Aye.
Director Fong,
Aye.
Director Manieri,
Aye.
Director De La Cruz,
Aye.
Director Flores,
Aye.
Director Medina,
Aye.
President Sheffield.
Aye, motion passes. Thank you. Moving on to our G items, approval of minutes. G1, approval of minutes of the regular board meeting held on June 22nd. Seeking a motion.
Move to approve as presented.
Second.
All right, moved by trustee Medina, seconded by trustee De La Cruz. Ready for a vote.
Director Bowie,
Aye.
Director Medina,
Aye.
Director De La Cruz,
Aye.
Director Manieri,
Aye.
Director Fong,
Aye.
Director McCormick,
Aye.
Director Flores,
Aye.
President Sheffield.
Aye, motion passes. Agenda item G2, approval of minutes of the special board meeting held on July 6th,
I'd like to,
2022.
Go for it.
Yes.
sorry, I'd like to move to approve the minutes of the special board meeting. I interrupted you. I'm so sorry.
No. It's hard because these things, first of all, and when I look over, I see a rainbow of you guys. And I see a rainbow of you guys, so I can't really tell. What a glare. Okay, moved by trustee De La Cruz,
Second.
seconded by trustee Medina. Ready for a vote.
Director Bowie,
Aye.
Director De La Cruz,
Aye.
Director Medina,
Aye.
Director Manieri,
Aye.
Director Fong,
Aye.
Director McCormick,
Aye.
Director Flores,
Aye.
President Sheffield.
Aye, motion passes. Agenda item G3, approval of minutes of the regular board meeting held on July 27th, 2022.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion was from trustee McCormick, seconded from trustee De La Cruz. We are ready for a vote.
Director Bowie,
Aye.
Director McCormick,
Aye.
Director De La Cruz,
Aye.
Director Manieri,
Abstain.
Director Fong,
Aye.
Director Flores,
Aye.
Director Medina,
Aye.
President Sheffield.
Abstain? Motion passes. Moving on to our H items, board member requests for information. Do we have requests for information from board members tonight? Trustee De La Cruz.
I'd love to know how we're doing on the ethnic studies rollout and what classes at each site qualify for meeting that new requirement of our district. I'd love to know how many kids are enrolled. I'd love to know what teachers are teaching, and I'd love to see kind of like a sampling of the different kinds of curriculum that is being used with this exciting new area in our district. And particular interest in like social justice math, if that ever got off the ground. And love to see how these concepts and these philosophies are being presented in, you know, more traditional kind of English and social studies and history settings as well.
All right, other requests for information?
I have one. I like an update as to how is our A through G rollout going? Is it working? What's not working? Do we need to start looking at this policy and to make sure that our students are graduating? I know we talked about A through G implementation, but we haven't specifically talked about the effects of it and if it's working or not, and if we need to start looking at other graduation requirements, especially those that are at a continuation school.
Very good. Other requests, board members? All right, seeing none, information items are listed in the agenda packet. And before we adjourn, Superintendent Turnell, any last announcements?
Yay for tomorrow. We are so
Yeah.
excited to bring our students and everyone back, and excited for this year. And thank you to all of you for the support that you give to me and to our district in making this happen.
All right, with that, thank you, board, and good luck tomorrow. Best of luck to the start of a new school year. Meeting adjourned.
It is warm.